Welcome to the Endurance Studio podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Turner. I'm an avid ultra-endurance cyclist, bikepacker, and runner, and I'm on a journey to learn and share everything I can about how people can push beyond their limits. This podcast will explore all aspects of endurance through conversations with people I find unique and interesting. There's always an amazing story of accomplishment and failure, and always something to learn. I run this podcast from an off-grid mobile studio I've created so I can travel to the guests and have authentic, in-person conversations because I believe in the importance and power of face-to-face conversations. Thank you for watching and listening. This episode is brought to you by Squirrel's Nut Butter. Who doesn't need a little extra lube in their life? They make adventure lube. It's the best in the business. I use the saddle butter for riding and the anti-chafe for ultra running. It's all natural ingredients, sustainable packaging, and it's locally manufactured here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And go check out episode number 4 with Chris Thornley. He's the owner and operator of Squirrel's Nut Butter. He's an amazing human, and he's got some really great stories on that podcast. So check him out. You can use my unique promo code, Endurance15, for 15% off any of their products online at squirrelsnutbutter.com, or you can click the link in the description and it will automatically be applied to your shopping cart. So please use that code. Go buy from them. Let them know that their support of this podcast is paying off for them, and spread that lube love. squirrelsnutbutter.com. This episode is brought to you by Embark Good Energy. If y'all have been following me for a while, you'll know that I have a thing for maple syrup, and I'm stoked to announce that I am now an ambassador for Embark Good Energy. They hail from the woods of Wisconsin's driftless region, and they make amazing organic maple syrup. So I love adding this, what I call rocket fuel, into my bikepacking race mix. There's 3 flavors: salted maple energy, coffee maple energy with 72 milligrams of green tea caffeine, that's my favorite, and elderberry, which can be taken straight up or mixed with water. One 3 fluid ounce pouch has a lab verified 320 calories and 80 grams of carbs. And it's not that garbage maple syrup with high fructose corn syrup. This is 100% organic, great tasting maple syrup. You can use directly from the pack for quick energy, mix it with water for a hydration aid, or use it in camp cooking and even cocktail mixes. They're convenient resealable pouches, so you can have multiple uses while consuming it and avoid sticky messes. So use my unique promo code to get 20% off today. The code is EMBARK20, EMBARK20, for any products online at embarkmaple.com. Today's returning guest just completed an epic single-speed journey on the Arizona Trail 800 Ultra Endurance mountain bike race. She completed the 837-mile trail with over 100,000 feet of elevation gain in 11 days, 12 hours, and 19 minutes. She's a veteran, mom, nurse practitioner, wife, bike shop mechanic, and enduro racer turned bikepacker. At the time of this recording, it's only been 5 days since her finish, and I'm sure she has a lot of things to catch up on and a pretty gnarly calorie deficit to correct. So I'm super thankful that she's taken the time to sit with me today. Please welcome back to the podcast, Leigh Bowe.
I don't know much of their story. I chatted with them just a little bit under the highway bridge at the end of like the I call it the sunset closure. There's like those 2 miles on private land that you can't ride through after sunset.
Yeah.
But and they were almost out of food there.
Oh no.
They were debating whether or not to go to Patagonia. But the 13-year-old, he did the HT 550 when he was 11.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Where's that? What is that? Where's that one?
Highland Trail 550.
Oh, in Scotland.
Yeah. Have
okay.
you heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Andrew Strimke did it a few years back.
And Katie.
Yeah.
And I was signed up for it for about a week, and then I found out I was pregnant. And I was like, not going there. At least not this time. I'd like to still. But that one, it's a proper 550 miles. Was set up as like a training for a local Scot to prep for CTR.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still on my list, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let me just make sure we're rolling. We're rolling.
All right.
So, the first thing I have to say is Happy Day of the Dead.
Oh, yeah. Feliz Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, and epic congratulations. Like,
thank you.
Incredible. Like, when I first saw your name on track, we'll back up to the start. I saw your name on Track Leaders, and I texted you, and I said, "Are you doing this for real?" And you just texted me, like, "Pray for me," hands back.
That seems appropriate. Yeah. I think I understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was like survive. This is a hard one.
So when did you actually decide when did you commit to it?
To doing the 800?
Yeah.
After I passed Flagstaff.
Oh, okay.
Like, no joke. I like was at the start line at the border marker. Like, am I going 300? What am I doing? Like, I had so much fear, so much unknown, and like, I just wasn't sure how far I was going to make it until close to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get to the being from Flagstaff. One of my biggest fears about attempting the 800 is going through Flagstaff and the draw to home, because that's a real weak point for me.
Yeah.
So you didn't kind of go into it. You were kind of like, we'll see what happens from the start. Like when you, yeah.
Yeah.
And take it day by day.
Yeah. Not an exaggeration. Like I knew I had like a eject button. Like Matt had that first week off. And then my mom flew in to watch the baby after those first 7 days, because it wasn't going to finish in 7 days. And then it was going to be a lot harder to get extracted. And then like going through Flagstaff and you just, ride home at any point. So yeah, I wasn't sure, which is a very strange feeling for me. Like this was a different one in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, since you were on the pod last, you had just finished Bones to Blue and kind of like seemingly rebuilt some confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a real real rebuild ride for you, it seemed. And then this one, and it's just, I mean, it's so big and epic and like so much longer of a time commitment than like Bones to Blue.
Yeah. Big time. In between Bones to Blue and AZTR, I like historically before baby, I would go out for an overnight shakedown like the week before a big race. Like I don't get to do that anymore. It's just it seems like a little bit more like fly by the seat of my pants. Like we'll see what happens. Got to be just open to the possibility of failure more than in the past, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one thing on the Arizona Trail that you can't just like fly by the seat of your pants is the Portage, right? Like you kind of got to be committed to that bad boy.
Yeah.
Like you got to have the right gear. You got to ship stuff in.
Yeah. Once you're in there, like, so I used to work at the, there's a clinic at South Rim.
Okay.
So I know okay, number one, I did not want to be one of those guys, but I know that people routinely get helicoptered out of Phantom Ranch because they twisted their ankle or, just had a bad day. And I'm like, that we're not doing that. Number one, I'm not leaving my bike down there.
Right.
But also, like, I don't think I could, like, look at myself knowing that, like, my previous coworkers at the clinic knew that I, like, pushed the eject and asked for an emergency evacuation. Like, if you're getting taken out by a helicopter, you're putting the helicopter crew's life at risk, like
right.
Going in and flying out of there and like riding a mule out, like all those things sounded awful. But yeah, once you start the Portage, I feel like you're not going to turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something, so I my wife and I did rim to rim to rim. We had it planned for many months. It's something that's been on her bucket list, and it just coincidentally lined up. We didn't even really think about it till a couple weeks out that we were like, oh shit, we're going to see a bunch of through riders. How awesome is this? Like, depending on how it times out.
It was last week. Was it Saturday?
Yeah, it was Saturday morning we went in. So we started at like 5 a.m. on Saturday morning and hit the North Rim, like, I don't know, around like maybe 1 or 2 o'clock. and then came back through Phantom, and we saw Aaron Johnson on the way back. He was in the box hiking through, which is the section from Phantom to like Cottonwood Campground.
Okay, that was like flat.
Mm-hmm. And he was like, just trying to stay awake. That's that was all he said, and I was like, oh boy, you got it, dude. I was trying to give him as much stoke as possible, you know. And then I saw Matt. His last name starts with an S.
I can't remember right now, but yeah.
And he was so that was just after Phantom. We were coming back, and I guess Dylan DeSaro and Tom Cavanaugh were in Phantom, like drinking a beer, because I wanted to see both of them, because I know I met Dylan on CTR, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, they were both triple crowning this year. Triple crowned.
Yep.
Congratulations to them.
Absolutely. And then we started climbing up out of South Kaibab, and it had gotten dark at that point, and that's, you know, so it was like 3 hours out of South Kaibab, and that's when we saw Karen. And Karen was like, you know, she's unbelievable. And just was like, gave us the whole debrief.
Energy ball.
Oh, yeah. Like the whole debrief about, you know, the custom orthotics and her shoe and her broken foot and like, you know, all this stuff, and how Alexandra missed the Payson.
Resupply? Yeah. Well, she stopped. Alexandra stopped in Payson, got a hotel room because she missed the post office by an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what time she got moving, but I assume she was like awake in her hotel room in the wee hours looking at the tracker and just couldn't take it any longer, and like seeing Karen like encroaching, and was like, I'm leaving my resupply, and took off and left her box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Karen smelled a little bit of blood at that point. Karen was like, because she took second on CTR behind Alex also, so she was like,
I've taken
this is my
second
chance
to Alex on the CTR as well. Like, I know that feeling. Yeah, she's a beast.
Totally. And then I thought for sure we'd see you. Like, and we literally missed each other by like 20 minutes. Because, I mean, we got out of there at like maybe 10 p.m. And then when I checked your tracker later on, it was like, you were like 10:20. You and Ryan had hit South Kaibab.
Sounds about right. Yeah, Ryan stopped and slept. I managed to call and get a permit for Bright Angel Campground.
Beautiful.
And that kind of pushed me to get in there because I wanted to get down there and get at least a little bit of a nap.
Yeah.
But coming in, I had like Garmin glitch issues the whole 800, and it seemed to be getting like progressively worse as I went. But coming into Tucson, my Garmin like turned off right around sunset, and I can't really blame the Garmin, but basically I blew the churn into Tucson to resupply and started pedaling towards the park. So I got to the Grand Canyon National Park gate, and I was like, dang it, I rode past Tucson.
Yeah.
Because you don't actually go through town. You like go under the highway, and then have you ridden that? Like on...
There's a path to the left to the
Stagecoach.
IMAX.
Yep.
Or right to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And left takes you to town.
And I was just like out of it enough that I turned the wrong way, like followed my track, assuming it was going to take me through town. And so I got to the gate, turned around and went back. So that was probably the 20 minutes that I missed you right there.
Totally.
But also I stayed in McDonald's for a while, recharging.
Okay.
They just rebuilt that McDonald's, and it's so nice.
For real?
Yeah, there were a ton of people in there. There was a line. I'm like, ooh, this is going to take forever. But you just like order at the kiosk, throw all your stuff down. Every table has multiple charging ports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
There's like a bathroom with hot running water. It was like, this is great.
The self-order kiosks are like such a game changer for me and my like food guilt when I'm ordering.
Oh, I went up several times. Yeah. Like, oh, this isn't going to be enough. I like ate everything I was going to take with me. I got to go back and order more.
Yeah, because usually you're like standing in front of the counter and you're like, I want this and this and this.
And they're looking at you like you have 3 heads.
Anything else? And they're like looking behind you for like a little league team or something that's behind you. And you're like, and I want 5 apple pies. And I want 3 things of cookies.
Do you have any of those fritters? Yeah.
and 6 sauce packets, please.
Yeah. No.
But now you can just like hit that kiosk.
Now
up.
it's like it's impossible to like get a person to take your order. Like
Right.
you got to go kiosk.
Yeah, they're not into that. Those days are over at McDonald's.
I'm tempted for the next bikepacking race to like consider getting on the app and like have my order like pre-made and just
That's a
hit
great
like
idea.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just pick it up. I mean, if you're really trying to shave time off.
Yeah.
I guess that's
you
the
like
move.
get in there and it's like blurry vision, like whoa, what's going on, and you forget to order your latte. And, Yeah.
I talked a lot about this on a previous episode. Like you're in that like race brain. That's that Karen and Matt, they use that term, and I've been using it over and over again. There's like this, you get into this state when you're riding, and you get very like accustomed to that state, whatever that is, the flow state or just like this constant like simplicity.
Survival, reptile brain.
Yep. You're not in the planning brain. You're just, all the blood is being diverted to certain areas and not into your future planning part. And your executive functioning, I think they call it. And then you pop into these resupplies, and all of a sudden you have like all these people and all this responsibility. And I struggle with it every time. Like,
There's
I don't know what to do.
Numbers involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suddenly we're doing math. Like, wait, what?
Totally.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I think like the more of these that we do, the better we get at it. Like the serious veterans, like Alexandra, who's done who knows how many. She's so fast at resupplies. She's like in and out. I definitely get a little sucked in and confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to witness Alex doing a resupply on the Arizona Trail 300 2 years ago. I was doing the 3, she was doing the 8, and we were at Rocking K Market.
Uh-huh.
And
wow, that
she
place
was
is
like,
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And she had gotten there early, like earlier than a lot of the other riders, so there was still a lot of like good selection there. And I remember she verbalized that. She was like, "Oh, all the good stuff's still here because it hasn't been like cleaned out, And it was like it was a masterclass at Resupply. Just like watching her, like I totally dropped the ball because I was just like watching her resupply. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm just like faffing around. Like, do I want these, I'm buying stuff that like doesn't even, like just that I regret later buying that I carried for 50 miles,
Been there.
And I'm like, don't want to eat that.
How long do you think you were at Rockin' K during the 300?
Way too long. I was avoiding the Reddington climb because it was like super roasty. It was like in the, high 90s. And we were all just, it was like 2 p.m. I got there.
Okay.
And I was just like not looking forward to that Reddington climb, just roasting for the next 5 hours. So I was like, we got a bag of ice, and we were just like putting ice in we were on their front porch.
Smart.
We were putting ice in, our jerseys and stuff. And I just was like, I know it is all going to melt and all going to evaporate in the next 30 minutes.
I feel good for that. I mean, you bring your core temperature down a couple degrees by doing that. And I mean, that's going to get you more time down the road before you start to cook again.
Yep.
It's smart.
And it probably lasted until about halfway up the pavement part. And then I just went under a tree and
still a lot of exposed up to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just, honestly, my strategy there was just wait, go under a tree, watch everybody else cook.
Yeah.
And just wait it out till the sun kind of crests and then catch everybody.
Yeah.
And it worked pretty well that year. But the heat was less of a factor this year, right?
Big time, I think. Yeah. I mean, it was still a factor. But I think we had like princess conditions, honestly, as far as it can go for the AZT. Our first day was hot, but then after that, we had a cold front come through for, 3 days or so, which was enough time for at least like the sharp end of the race to get through the really hot climates. I was at like the back end of the pack, but even with the cold front, like my Garmin was reading triple digits around like noon to 2 p.m. on those days.
Your Garmometer.
Yeah.
Which was always off by like 10 degrees either way, by the way.
It's so sun sensitive.
Like, why can't they make that? Right? They make them for vehicles and stuff. Like, why can't they make an accurate...
Get like a little drink umbrella to put over it. But no, legit, even in the shade at Saguaro Lake, I jumped in the lake I had to pull water anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to swim for 30 seconds.
Hell yeah.
Cooled off. But my Garmin was in the shade, parked on the shore for, at least probably 20 minutes. And I checked it as I was leaving, and it was 95 degrees. So I'm like, in the sun, it would probably accurately was, triple digits.
Right. So
for a little fraction of time, nothing like last year.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened with the Garmin? What do you mean by the glitches?
The glitches. So I actually, the Stremkeys and Annie Leigh stopped by, not last night, the night before. And Andrew used to work for Garmin.
Yeah.
So I was like, Andrew, you need to give a class, like a Zoom, like put together a slideshow. People will pay money for a Bikepacker racing Garmin class. He's like, you're not the first person to tell me that. He's like, I need a deadline. I'm going to make it happen.
No shit.
Yeah. I told him April 1st for all the Garmin fools.
Okay.
So stay tuned. He might put something out there.
That's awesome.
But I asked him, like, what was up? And he assumed, he seemed to think that it had to do with the fact that I loaded the whole 800 onto my Garmin.
And not the, probably the full point version. And not
no,
the
I couldn't get the full point to load.
So
it was the 10K, full 800. And then I wasn't saving it each day. I was like, I would, stop it, put it to sleep, and then start it back up. So I was running a continuous track. I ended up losing my track when I went to save it when I got home.
Shit.
Like, poof.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. Lessons learned.
It's not like it didn't ever happen though.
I pulled it off of my inReach, and it gave me like 650 miles and like 50,000 feet of climbing. I'm like, that looks so pleasant. I wish I'd have done that.
Yeah. Well, you didn't.
No.
Yeah. So I guess the takeaway would be save save the track after each stop you make.
And you can, I got Andrew says you can stitch it together at the end. I haven't done that, but I could probably figure it out. And to break it up. I don't know what a good, I didn't ask him what a good length, but I'm assuming like 300-mile increments would be better than a full 800.
Oh, on the track that you're loading?
Yeah.
Break the track up into 3.
Yeah, put like 3 tracks on there instead of one big one.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was a little concerned about that with CTR, for sure, because it was the biggest I've ever. Because before that, I used an E-Trax, and like the E-Trax is like bomb-proof. It'll load anything.
Yeah, I've used an E-Trax before too, and it's bomb-proof in some ways. It's it's not perfect also.
Right.
But after this experience, I'm like, dude, do I go back to an E-Trax? The other thing is, and I mentioned this to Andrew, and he was intrigued by it. I felt like it glitched out more right around sunset every day as the temperature was dropping, and I was like, is it cold sensitive? And he's like, I mean, possibly, could be. Some weather coming in.
Yeah. It's staked down. Don't worry. The tent's not going anywhere.
I trust your studio. No. But that was like extra frustrating because it would be getting dark, and then my Garmin would like turn off for however long it needed to take a break and do whatever it was doing, just as it was like getting harder to route find because the sun went down. Yeah. Anyways, Garmin glitches.
Which model?
I have an Edge 540.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I went from the Stone Age to the future Elon Musk spaceship.
Oh yeah, you did a full 180.
Yeah, so I went from the E-Trax to the 1040 Solar.
Dang.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going all the way.
A bit of an adjustment. Do you have like all the bells and whistles running, or?
No, so I'm pretty comprehensive about learning that, like really going through that stuff and vetting it ahead of time, and identifying all of the things I need to shut off to save battery. Because my biggest gripe going from the battery operated the 2 AA's E-Trax that would last 4 days on 2 AA batteries to this new one, which lasts 3 days, and with solar maybe 3.5.
I'm getting like 1 day out of my 540 on the AZT.
Yeah, I mean the 1040 is impressive, especially if you get sun.
Yeah, and it's bigger. You probably see better.
The screen's really big.
I got old lady eyes.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I get made fun of for the text on my phone now. Like how big the text is on
no,
my
you're
phone.
there. I actually brought safety glasses from the shop that I have that have little magnifying readers in the bottom.
That's a pro tip right there.
It was huge. Like I could actually like see my like at night. I was like, oh, put the clears on and I can see again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest advantage for me, like the biggest thing about the Garmin is the off-route warnings that I didn't have on the E-Trex.
Yep.
And how huge those are.
Zoned out. If you're not looking at that line, you have no idea that you're going off-route. My 540, I have most of the bells and whistles turned off.
Yeah.
So it gives me just like a little, like maybe 5 seconds, little pop up and a beep that I'm off route if I go off route. But even that's easy to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did a few times for sure.
I mean, I turn off the power meters. I turn off the heart rate stuff when I'm doing like cross country riding or whatever. I'll leave all that stuff on and like actually actively monitor it. But bikepacking, it's like that stuff goes out the window in the first day.
Yeah.
So just like turn it all off. I don't even look at any of that crap. It just wastes battery. And it has like a economy battery mode on it. I'm not sure if the 540 does.
It does. Yeah, the battery saver, which it kind of lied to me. Like it would tell me that I had like 18 hours left, and then 4 hours later it just turns off. I was like, no.
Because of battery.
Yeah.
Shit, that's a problem.
Most of the times it turned off, it was like a glitch. It would have plenty of battery, and once it went through its 5 to 10 minute, whatever it was doing, the circle spinning.
Yeah.
It would turn back on and have plenty of battery. But
did it like load the climbing profiles and stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I found that can kind of overload it a little bit. If it's too long, it's like struggles with the loading of the climbing profiles.
That's one of the bells and whistles that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. But I think there's a middle ground. So there's the workaround. See, I mean, the thing is like they're not these devices are not engineered for
what
the Arizona Trail 800.
No, definitely not.
Like they're made for like the median user, which is like a day rider that maybe would go 50 miles max. Right? So everything, all the software, all the UI design, everything is made around that, right? Because that's their biggest market. So like they're not going to make it for, and we're just like every other component, right? Ultra bikepackers are like pushing things to the limit.
Oh yeah.
Like Andrew's crank, for example.
Andrew and Matt Annabelle.
Did he bust a crank on this?
No, last year.
Oh, okay.
He was running the E-Wings. He won't run them anymore.
Those are like they're like $900 cranks.
Yeah, indestructible.
Like it better like I've been saying it better like be able to re-enter the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then be ridden on for $900. Like
no,
what
it
the
can't
hell?
even re-enter the AZT.
Like what the hell? That's a real problem. And they're what, Thai? They're supposed to be
Thai.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
don't know about
So I'm on a Thai frame and a little like pins and needles about it because Thai frames fail. I mean, so do carbon and alloy. Like there's nothing that's gonna live forever. But I just feel like we've had a string of Thai frame failures in the shop recently.
Really? Mm-hmm. So, is that more prevalent with boutique Thai manufacturers that don't have like maybe a solid of like a QA process?
Again, talking to Stremke about this, he feels like American manufactured Thai frames are stronger than the overseas Chinese, Taiwanese.
Yeah.
What we've seen in this shop is in the sliding dropouts, the Paragon dropouts, there is like a specific point where they kind of stress fail. And we saw like a string of 7 frames that were cracked in that same spot.
Huh.
And that's a really common dropout that Thai manufacturers use, the Paragon drops. And some people continue to run them like that without problems. I don't know that I would feel comfortable in a big bike packing, like when you're really out there running a cracked frame. Like, yeah.
It's debatable. There's a lot of factors.
Indeed.
Right? Like I thought I rode Thai for many years, Thai hardtail. It was like a moto bacane.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like an old eBay special that I bought used. It was right when I was getting into bikepacking.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on stuff and trying to do it as budget as possible.
Yeah,
and
get a forever bike, get tie.
Yeah. Well, I had a karate monkey and a steel karate monkey that I was like figuring out what I wanted to do or how I want to ride or whatever. So I ended up, I wanted to go to tie because it was a little lighter. So I got this like Motobacane frame that they only made for a couple years. It was called like the Phantom Tie, whatever. And it was good. It was a solid bike. It was geared. I wasn't running a single speed. So there's this like single speed is like this thing for me that I don't know. It's like, because you ran single speed, right?
I did.
So
Yeah.
thoughts on?
Are you going to ask me if I would do it again?
I mean, yeah. Does it have advantages?
It has advantages.
Does it have disadvantages?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's nothing that is like the end all be all or everybody would be doing that. Definite advantages is you're sitting in your saddle less. You're either off your bike pushing or standing so much more of the time that my undercarriage felt great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had like very little chafe, like compared to what I would otherwise.
No
have been
soft
on a
pedaling.
geared bike. No, none.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the frustration is on like the passages that were, kind of fast, flowy, trending downwards, like I'd be spun out and just be like, okay, bye everyone.
Yeah.
And then on the climbing stuff, like I did have maybe some more knee pain than I would have otherwise. So my husband, Matt, when I said I wanted to do the single speed, he's like, you should do whatever is going to be faster. And I'm like, I think I might be faster on a single speed. He's like, you're fooling yourself. He was right. I was probably I think I would have been faster on a geared bike.
Yeah.
If I would have been able to finish, like, who knows? Elliot, I'm sorry, I don't know his last name. I saw him walking his bike out towards Kelvin because he had first at some point he had bent his derailleur hanger.
Yeah.
And then he had like whacked his derailleur again and like broken the derailleur and the hanger. So he was just like done. And he tried to convert it to single speed unsuccessfully. So he had to like walk out.
Yeah.
With his only choice. And yeah, that's just one kind of delicate kink in the chain that could easily fail.
Yeah, on a geared bike.
On a geared bike, especially like throwing your bike on your back and
right.
pushing it up the lemon push. Like there's just so many like snaggle rocks that can derail you.
It seems like single speeds, when like they're definitely more reliable, there's less stuff, so there's like inherent reliability there. However, when they do fail, it's like catastrophic because it seems like there's more torque being put on components.
Sure. Yeah. Both Annabelle and Strumke are single speeders. And,
yeah.
Maybe that stressed their indestructible cranks.
Yeah.
To
they're
the point
like
of braking.
Andrew's like 500-watt thighs.
Yeah.
Just crushing those E-wings, just like eating them for lunch.
Oh, poor little E-wings never had a chance. Yeah, I did. It was kind of like learning to single speed. I've single speeded before. I did the Stagecoach 100, our local Flagstaff to Grand Canyon race on a single speed, and not this spring, but the previous year, I set out for Pinions and Pines and did like 200 miles of it on a single speed. So I wasn't a total rookie, but this was easily the most miles I've ever single speeded in my life. It was near Marshall Lake, so in between Mormon Lake and Flagstaff. I felt like my chain was kind of slapping, like maybe had stretched a little bit. So I went to adjust my chain tension, and kind of a rookie move, I over-tensioned it and didn't put 1 and 2 together in my inebriated state, and thought that my bottom bracket was suddenly failing because I had so much just resistance and drag in the system. And it felt like I was like pedaling through sand, and it took me like 3 or 4 hours to realize, oh, you idiot, you over-tensioned your chain, just loosen it a little bit, and it got better. That was maybe the one mechanical drawback that I encountered on a single speed.
Are you a mechanic at Flag Bike Rub?
I am, but I've been part-time the whole time I've been there, and like my background is nursing, so.
Yeah, but you like know enough to talk about these components.
Yeah.
Like you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge advantage, right, to bike packing in general.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like just kind of knowing like, oh, yeah, well, I thought it was this, but it's actually this, and I'm going to diagnose it this way.
Toot my own horn for a second by quoting another racer I was riding with. He was like, so you're a nurse practitioner and you're a bike mechanic? He was like, you're the perfect person to be riding next to during one of these things. I was like, aw, thanks. At the end of the day, like if I don't have a bike shop with me or like an urgent care clinic with me, I'm just as good as anybody else with a cell phone. But it's nice to maybe be able to diagnose when we need to call for help.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. So I kind of went through the replay, and you seem to have like more or less a consistent sleep schedule from what I could tell.
Yeah.
You pretty much like went to sleep like 10 or 11 p.m. most nights and woke up, maybe got 5 or 6 hours of sleep.
Oh, I wish that were true.
It looked like it.
No.
I mean, you stopped for that amount of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Matt told me, he's like, it looked like you were sleeping like 8 hours a night out there. And like, no.
Like getting up at like 5 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
It looked like.
No.
Or starting to move.
I'd say I probably averaged 4 hours a night, which is a sweet spot for me, bike pack racing. But it wasn't super quality. I had a lot of shiver bivvies.
Yeah. Shiver bivvies.
Yeah.
You have such great little words for all this stuff. I had shiver bivvies. Yeah. Like, I had that on CTR.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
It's not restful.
No.
Like you're semi aware that you're on the ground and uncomfortable and resting, but also you're wasting calories because you're shivering.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're not actually still right now. Our muscles are like moving and our whole body's shaking because we're so cold and uncomfortable.
Just get up and go. Like,
yeah.
You know, like that's what I do. I'm just like, fuck this. I'm going.
That's awesome. If you can do that, if you can like, if your mind can make your body do that, even though I'm shivering and uncomfortable and I know I'll be warmer if I get moving, I have a hard time getting out of my cold nest. Mm-hmm. Like it's hard to get going.
So what was your sleep kit?
I had, it was probably 20 years old, got it at an REI garage sale back when we lived in Tacoma, Washington, an REI bivvy that was somewhat similar to the OR Helium, I think. It's got like a mesh net. Does
it have a pole?
No, it might have at one point, but ours doesn't. And then I had a Feathered Friends down quilt that was rated to 30 degrees. And I think it would have been a lot better had I taken the time and had the wherewithal to clean it pre-race. But it still had like the funk from Bones to Blue on it, unfortunately. And I think that might have compromised some of its insulating abilities. And then I had a Thermarest closed cell foam, like 3/4 length that I've cut down to maybe like 18 inches wide and 3 feet long. Like I've shaved that thing down so many times that there's not much left to it. And that's what I left the border with. I did go into Big 5 Sports in Payson and bought a open cell inflatable air mattress, and that actually made a big difference.
Yeah. So the closed cell was because of the cactus? I mean, were you just not interested in getting a flat mattress in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just carrying a paperweight if like one of the bazillion pokey things puts a hole in this out there, because I'm not going to take the time to try and, even if I can find the hole to repair it.
It's so frustrating. So you know that section on Black Hills, so after Oracle, There's just like a cholla forest. That's the best way to describe
it's
it.
so gorgeous. It's like Dr. Seuss land.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
There's just cholla everywhere. They're just like, and they're just flipping up. I rode through there at night, and it's just like flipping up onto my front roll.
Yep.
And I'm just like, and I had, I don't know, I had like a climate deal.
Yep.
But my climate was like inside of my sleeping bag and then rolled up. So it had like a little bit of protection.
Was it enough?
Yeah, it was okay.
Yay.
But it was still like, definitely probably, if I'm going to do it again, because I'm not a closed cell, like I'll gamble with the open, like with the inflatable.
Yeah.
I'll gamble with it. But I would probably put like a front fender on.
Yeah.
Just to keep all that cholla out.
Or then they're going to get lodged in between your tire and the fender, though.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You don't want to lose the air there either.
No, but I feel like that's a little more.
Put some sealant inside your air mattress.
There you go. Problem solved. There you go. Solution oriented.
No, I had everything like rolled up inside, like my Vivi sack on my handlebars for I did a shakedown in Sedona with Karen Pocock and Matt Annabelle before we headed to the border. And Annabelle was like, "Is that your sleep setup? You're going to run it like that?" He's like, "Dude, the cat claw is just going to rip that bivvy to shreds down south." He's like, don't put that there. So I actually had my bivvy sack in my backpack until we got through like the proper desert sections.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was about Payson where I moved everything up front.
Yeah. Now that I mean, this is like, I should get like I have there's like these flexible plastic cheapo cutting boards that are like super cheap and flexible.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm thinking
armor
here.
up.
Yeah. Just like cover everything in it and slide it in your front roll.
That's a thought.
Yeah, because it is a real issue. Like that whole cat claw, the whole like Oracle Ridge, that like with the shin daggers and all the chaos.
Yeah,
you're like, there's parts where you're like navigating your bike through like a rock and like a giant shin dagger and like an exposed cliff.
Shin dagger.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. The exposure is proper. So the 300 you did General Hitchcock Highway.
Yeah. The lemon climb. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Instead of the push.
I've never done the lemon push. What's it like?
Are you going to do the 800?
When I was down in the canyon, I was getting some pretty serious FOMO. And I was like, but when I got done with CTR, I was like, that's the longest bikepacking trip I want to do. 6 days.
Yeah.
I'm like over it.
This was long.
But then when I was down in the canyon, I was like, I think I could do this.
You could do it. Totally.
And so I'm toying with the idea of next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Point. Awesome.
Yeah.
The lemon push, I would try and dissuade you from putting any extra weight up front on your handlebars because so much of it you're just like, doing like overhead, like, and that's like where the most weight is, like your fork's already one of the heaviest components of your bike, and just to add any weight to the front makes it really hard. So you could do that, but then for the push, like throw things on your back. Yeah, it's a better place to carry the weight up the push.
So if you're like, you got water bottle cages on there or whatever, like transfer all that stuff to your backpack before you lift it.
100%. Yeah. If you're running like water on your lowers or anything, move it like posterior on the bike or on the body as much as you can. That was another Annabelle tidbit that was huge. What is the lemon push like? It's that motion like over and over, like you're going up like rock drops, but you're going up them instead of down. It was pretty brutal. And at that point in the race, it was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. And then you go and you portage across Grand Canyon, and it was like the lemon push. That was a walk in the that was lovely. Yeah, let's do that again anytime. I got to the top, not the top. I got to Incinerator Ridge, and I still had like another section of trail to go before I started going down on the lemon push, and the sun was setting, and I came to the realization that I wasn't going to make it to Summerhaven in time to resupply. And I phoned home, and the Strumkeys were at our place at that moment, camping out after Andrew broke his crank and Katie got sick. So they both were either non-start or had scratched. And I had like some maybe not nice things that I said to them via Matt about the lemon push. I'm like, thanks a lot for making this happen. Like, this is just lovely. And
they love that.
I'm sure.
They love that feedback.
Yeah.
No. Psychopaths like that kind of feedback.
In retrospect, I hate road riding.
Yeah.
And riding up that highway for hours.
Yeah.
With like the sections of the lemon push where we got close to the highway near trailheads, I'm like, it is so loud. Like, this engine, like, I can smell the fumes, and like to have to do that for the full however many hours it takes to ride the highway, I'm like, this is nice. And some of it you get to ride down on if you descend the lemon drop, you are hike-a-biking up like some sections of every part of the trail.
Yeah.
And those parts you get to ride down on the lemon push. They're few and far between, but there's a little bit of riding there. And it's the Arizona Trail, so it is a little bit, more pure, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just had lunch with Ryan, or breakfast with Ryan before this, Ryan Sigsby.
Oh, no way. He's still in town?
Yeah, I think he's on his way out now. But he was doing some post-race logistics. But
you couldn't convince him to come and sit down?
I've tried. Maybe someday.
He mentioned it, and he's like, I can't do that.
But he says hi, because you two.
Hi back to you, Ryan.
I mean, you must have like trauma bonded on the North Kaibab hike out of there.
Dude, it was so nice to have a buddy there.
Because you were just going back and forth on that hike.
Somebody else going through that endeavor was so nice. Instead of just the day hikers who are, how much does your bike weigh? How much does it? Is that heavy? What do you think?
What do you
Come
think?
On.
Yeah. But anyway, I was talking to him about the lemon push, and I was, threw out the idea, like, is it that bad that why don't you just, is it worth disassembling your bike for that section? And he had kind of explained that, there's enough like flat and pedalable stuff and down that it's really not, you just kind of like shoulder it or push over it.
That and the Grand Canyon Portage would be a completely different entity for me if I were able to roll my bike next to me, rather than having to have it on my back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a different wear and tear on the body. And maybe partly because I'm just like smaller bodied human being female.
Right.
But yeah,
Did you do any training for hiking for the Portage leading into it?
Yes.
What kind of training did you do?
I would like ride somewhere, take my bike apart, put it on my back, and hike for a spell. I did some hikes like specifically with my daughter on my back. There's a new trail in town that just to like work those legs with weight on my back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't really decide like final decision on my Portage, like my full kit, specifically the Portage kit, until right before go time.
Okay.
So I tried like various different packs and setups before landing on what I landed on, for better or worse. But yeah, just like practicing, taking apart, putting back together, and hiking with it back there, just to kind of have an idea of what it was like. The first pack that I tried, so I'm an Army vet, and I've done ruck marches before in the military with like Army issued equipment. And the Army rucksack is called the Alice pack. And I thought that would be like the perfect pack, because I've hiked with it with a lot of weight there before when I was in, less fit physical shape.
Are we talking like 50, 60 pounds is like standard?
Like 35, I think, is a pretty common
would be
weight
like a military
for
ruck.
Army ruck march.
Ruck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is less than what my bike and gear weighed.
Right, you're looking at what, 60?
I would say mine with like water and food at the start of the Grand Canyon Portage, I was probably like 45 to 50.
Okay.
That's my guess. But the Alice pack, it's an external frame, so lots of like contact points, and it's got like pretty decent padding, like hip pad, like, and it's also like by itself like small and lightweight. And I tried it a couple times. I rode up to Snowbowl and then started hiking up Humphreys, and the one that I got online is not the Army issue version. It was like a Amazon knockoff. And the straps kept like loosening, which would cause like my whole load to shift. And that first time I practiced, it was my right calf is where like the handlebar kept just like, it felt like it was just tapping. It wasn't painful at the time. It was just like annoying and affecting my gait and just kind of like limiting my ability to have a normal stride.
Yeah.
But like the following day, I'm like, was that dirt on my leg? Because it was just peppered and handlebar shaped bruises like all over my calf. And I was like, whoa, let's not do that again. And then the calf just felt like swollen and tender for almost a week after that. So I did, a handful of practice hikes like that, and felt like it was very like hit or miss. Sometimes it was like luck of the draw if I would nail strapping the bike on in a secure way.
Yeah.
When it like actually came to the real deal, Grand Canyon Portage, dropping in at 11 p.m. in the dark from South Kaibab, I nailed it for the first however many miles, and then I don't know if I took my pack off because something had shifted or what, but something shifted and it started like whacking me in my calf, and that happened the following day as well. And again, not like whacking, just like gentle taps, but right now my calf is peppered in those same handlebar shaped bruises again. One other thing of note that happened on the way down South Kaibab, and it was when I took my pack off I think I went to restrap things and try and get it so that the handlebar wasn't tapping me, is when I put my pack back on, my hydration hose got kind of like pinned behind me somehow, and I pulled it out, and the bite valve came off, and my water just started like spraying everywhere, and I was like, crap, like I shoved it in my mouth to like get it to stop.
Yeah.
Didn't want to lose all my water. And then like pinched it off, got it closed, and was like, okay, where's the bite valve? Like I'm going to need that for the rest of my ride, because prior to that I had put a hole in, I had 1.5 liters Nalgene on my down tube that I had put a large bore hole in trying to ride over a log. So that went in the trash at Happy Jack. So it was down some water capacity, and that was my easiest water to drink, was out of my Camelback. So I like needed that bite valve. So I spent 45 minutes in the dark trying to find it on South Kaibab.
Oh no.
Couldn't find it. Like picked up my pack, shook it. Like where did it go? Like like it's dark. Like it must have just like bounced or rolled. All right, I can't stay here forever. I gotta go. It was
or like on South
time.
Kaibab, it's gone because there's exposure on one.
I can't remember. Like it was dark when I was there, and the last time I did it in the daytime was years ago. So, yeah.
So that was your last like water reservoir holder. All you had was you had one bottle which was crushed, and then you had.
No, I had more than that.
Okay.
But I was like, dude, I'm gonna be like way down, and it's gonna be time consuming, because I had a bottle cage inside my frame.
Okay.
And that was the other decently easy to drink out of water source I had. I left the border with just over 8 liters capacity.
Yeah.
By the finish, I was down to just under 6 liters.
Okay. Capacity.
Yeah, because hiking the following day in the canyon, I dropped a hydro pack and it put a hole in it.
Oh. Redundancy.
Yeah.
Right? Like redundancy's key here.
Yep. Anyhow, about the bite valve, the bladder on my back was 3 liters.
Okay.
I got down to Bright Angel Campground, just collapsed, like did basically nothing. Like unrolled my bivvy, crawled in, and slept like solidly for 2 hours, and then like I got to that campground, and the AZT through hiker site is where my permit was for.
Yeah.
It was like sardines in there. There were so many people in there.
Oh man.
And it was like 4 a.m. when I got there, and there were two just touring bikepackers who were southbound, who were like, "Hey, are you doing the race?" Like, well, there's water just past site 20, and there's bathrooms like further down, and like, good luck, you're doing great. And they were packing up to leave already at 4 a.m. and I was arriving. They were nice, like, you know, props to whoever they were. Thanks for being sweet. I was a zombie.
So it was like, what, 11 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Yep.
was your time down?
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep. Yeah. You can subtract 45 minutes of just
faffing around
in the dirt. So 2 hours of sleeping, another hour of just like being dazed in the morning. And like the campground was empty basically when I left. There were two through hikers, a guy and a gal. The gal was having a nosebleed, which I think was delaying their departure, but otherwise everyone cleared out between the time I got there and got going again. But about 7 a.m., it's light, and I'm like, okay, it's going to get hot down here. I need to get moving. Like, get your shit together, Leigh. I did some laundry in the creek and then packed up my stuff. And lo and behold, there's my bite valve sitting next to my pack.
What?
I don't know how it happened. Like, what it was like on. Like, was it like in my shirt?
Wedged somewhere.
I don't know. Yeah.
It
but I
fell
like,
all the way down from when you lost it and landed right next to your
But
campsite.
I like literally, Dylan, I like shook my pack on the trail more than once, like trying to get it to emerge, because I'm like, I need this water.
It was still pinched in whatever pinched it to pull it off.
Something.
Right?
I don't know.
Oh, but thank God you found it.
It's kind of a miracle. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Because I was like, everything's falling apart right now.
Yeah.
But that was like a happy little nugget. Joy bomb.
God. And then, so to continue through, we're kind of jumping around here, but like, so then let's just continue through the rest of the canyon. So you're up at 7. You go through like the box section. Which was
decently pleasant. Like, it's kind of just like flat-ish miles, and I think like the first mile descending down is when my sewing machine legs like started to like quiver.
Yeah.
And shake. I was like, yeah, I got to go all the way down and then back up on these shaky legs. But the flat miles were they were fine.
Nice, like, change of pace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my legs were quivering going down South Kaibab with not a bike on my back. They were quivering by the bottom.
Well,
and I was like,
saying that.
y'all are, like, and on the way back, like I said before, I was, like, put in my place. I was in the pain cave for, like, 10 minutes until I saw Karen. Then I was like, I need to shut up. I don't know if I already said that, but whatever. It was just so, like, mind-blowing that all of you persisting through this. I mean, it's just insane. People do not understand how ridiculous that descent and ascent is, and then to add that weight and just the weird structure of the whole thing and all the water and all the logistics, like, I
mean, it makes every other physical endeavor I've done in my life seem like nothing.
So like even army, like being in the army and stuff like that, like not even
army schmarmy.
Okay.
No, the only thing that maybe comes close is I did a 100-mile fat biking ultra in a blizzard a few years ago.
So it's just the cold factor.
That it's how to describe it. Have you fat biked ever?
A bit, just up and around the mountains here.
Yeah.
One winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you overdress?
Definitely.
Because you work so hard.
Well, yeah, and then it's fine until it's like 4 inches deep, and then it's like pointless.
Right. Yeah.
Like you don't float like you think you're going to. It just becomes a slog.
It's impossible. Yeah. So it was a slog. It was 36 hours to go 100 miles. And some of it in a whiteout.
Oh my God.
It was so brutal.
Yeah, I think.
And that's the only thing that comes close to the Grand Canyon Portage.
Dang.
Yeah.
So, okay, so You hit Cottonwood Campground.
Yep.
The one thing that was a pleasant surprise to me in the canyon was the frequency of fresh water.
On North Kaibab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a fair amount. You're following a creek the whole time.
Yeah.
Kind of from Phantom out. So, like, there is a lot of water. You don't have to carry a bunch until you get to, like, Manzanita's the last stop.
Yeah. That flat section to Cottonwood, like, barely needed to carry any.
Right.
But you don't know that. And it's a chore to get the bike on and off your back. So anytime you need to, like, stop and do a task, it's like weighing the, pros and cons of, do I want to take this thing off my back and have to get it back on and, like, adjust? And yeah. So did I pull water at Cottonwood? I don't think I did.
Cottonwood has, like, nice bench and...
Wait a minute. Is there a creek crossing right before Cottonwood?
I don't remember.
I think I might have stopped there. I think it was Cottonwood and not Manzanita that I stopped at the creek crossing, ate a cheeseburger, and that's where Ryan caught me. And he went, like, into the campground to the Spigot. And then after that, we kind of, like, yo-yoed back and forth for the rest of it. We were so happy to see each other. It was like, another one of my kind. Yay,
totally.
Another wackadoo. Yeah, so I think I did pull water out of the creek, maybe just 1 liter, because I knew Manzanita was only like a mile and a half up ahead. Then at Manzanita, Ryan camped out for a while there, and, like, took his shoes off and ate some food, and I had just had, like, a cheeseburger, so I think I grabbed, like, another liter out of the spigot, and it was starting to cool off at that point, so I was like, I don't need to carry a ton of water. And there was some talk about maybe Supai having water. There wasn't any.
Okay.
But it was enough to get me to the North Rim from Manzanita. I pretty much the whole race I carried more water than I needed to. That was just like a fear thing and not knowing.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. Better than running out. For
sure. That whole section from, like, Manzanita up to the North Rim is also kind of weirdly shaded from the sun.
Yeah.
So, we were there at, I don't know, 11 a.m. or something, and it was, like, no sun. We were pretty much shaded the whole time.
I don't know if, like, North Kaibab is just, like, a magical place in October, but I was in the shade the whole morning, basically until Cottonwood, and then maybe we had 2 hours of sun, and then we were back in the shade because the sun had, like, crested to the other side. And
right.
Yeah, so we had, like, morning shade, 2 hours of sun, afternoon shade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it can get so hot down at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of if you can time it right. And, like, I think I think that splitting it up is probably a good move. If you could split up into 2 efforts, the descent and the ascent.
Yeah.
You're going to feel better at the end.
Agreed. I think Ryan probably felt a lot worse at the North Rim than I did because he did it all in one push.
Yeah.
And caught me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gnarly thing. So then you get to the North Rim, and it's nighttime, I think.
It was about 7:30 p.m. It was dark. It was getting cold. Ryan beat me there by maybe 10 minutes. And he was starting to put his bike back together. And he was planning to ride down the trail a little ways and find a warm place. And I'm like, I'm going to collapse at the top and just go to sleep right there. I don't think I'm going to be able to put my bike back together. But I was inspired by Ryan, so I'm going to start putting my bike back together. And it took me 5 minutes to get my rear wheel on because I had wrapped my chain around one of my chain stays and, like, volley strapped it in place so that it wouldn't be just, like, rattling and slapping the whole time and being annoying. And it had kind of, like, twisted itself into a pretzel. And, like, untwisting a chain when you're impaired like that turns out takes at least 5 minutes for me.
I mean, it's difficult, like, normally, right? If a chain gets past a certain point,
it
right?
can be,
it
yeah.
can get, like, your 40 chest.
What am I doing?
Yeah, you think it somehow got unhooked and rehooked backwards at some point.
All of the practice times, like just like, wow, this is something I had not practiced.
Yeah, totally. You don't think about that.
Yep.
So, two questions on the bike backpack assembly. Did you do the method where you leave your back tire on, or did you take your back tire off?
Ryan left his on. I took mine off.
I've seen a mix of both.
I think there is a certain stature where it's okay to leave the back wheel on, and I'm below that stature.
Because there's a couple points on North Kaibab specifically where there's like a bored out section on the
like
trail.
A hanging over rock.
It's like a hangover,
Yep.
yeah. And then there's like exposure on the left side.
Yeah.
Like pretty dangerous exposure. And if you hit your top of your wheel on that,
it could be a bad day.
it could be very bad.
I think I saw Ryan. I don't know if it was a tree or what. He had to like duck under, but if you just bend over at your waist and keep walking, you can manage that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my rest position, would be to just like bend forward on my waist to get the straps, the weight from pulling down on my shoulders, and I would just like let the bike go forward. So I think that would have been okay. But at a certain point, like the thing that you're carrying is like taller than you are, and it just becomes like unwieldy. And for me, it was take both wheels off was the move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's not that more to take the back wheel off. And it seems like a more compact package. Just like the weight's going to be a little more compact on your back.
It's like one more bulky thing to strap on. So again, pros and cons to everything. But for me, that was the move for sure.
Would you consider on your handlebar thing, hitting your leg, would you consider just like loosening your handlebar, like your headset, and repositioning I don't know if anybody's ever done this, repositioning your handlebars, because that seems like that's a big problem for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a thought. I think rather than loosen the headset, I'd probably would take the stem plate off, reattach the stem plate, and just strap the handlebars loose.
Then you wouldn't have to re-square your...
Yeah, you got to do your bar roll, but
you could have
I
it
don't mind
marked.
doing that.
Yeah, you could have that pre-marked.
Oh, yeah. You could Sharpie it, or just... I just go by feel usually and can get it close enough for my purposes.
Because it seems like you have the tire, you got the fork, and you got the handlebar, all kind of hanging out there.
Yeah. I ended up strapping my handlebars to the top tube, like one of the grips, to try and keep it in place. And that worked at times, but then like the whole load would shift, and then all of a sudden the other end of the handlebar is poking me.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad idea. I'd probably practice it a few times before I decided that's what I was going to do. But have you ever flown with a bike anywhere?
Yeah.
Like, have you used an EVOC case?
No, I used a box.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but
the
I
EVOC
hope Dana pack his case.
Yeah. You take the handlebars off and like strap them in place.
Right. Yeah, you strap it like you ship a bike for like direct-to-consumer bike sales or whatever.
Yeah.
Where the handlebars are basically they're strapped to the top tube.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Zip tied.
That's a good idea.
Because it's only 4 bolts. I'm coming up with all these ideas today. You're making me think of all these random things.
Why didn't we have this conversation before?
I know, because that's the way it works. You're just gonna have to go do it again, better next time.
Oh no!
Now that you know all the hot tips that I'm making up, that probably like are great in theory, but then you actually get into practice and you're like,
no, there's such an advantage to having done this before.
Yeah.
There's a steep learning curve for sure.
Sure. Anything.
Yeah.
Especially this.
Yeah.
But like, there is a respectable challenge to taking a risk at doing something new over and over again, right? And like being able to get through that stuff, like I like really respect those kind of people, because I'm like the planner, right? I'm like, I want to get good. I want to do Pinions and Pines over and over and over and over again, the same route, but like we change it every year.
It's different every time.
Right. So like but that like forces that like new, new learning on every one. You can't get really good at the thing,
Right.
I mean, we have a little bit of a local advantage just knowing the route and building the route and reconning a lot of it, but
the style of the riding here and like the resupplies are often repeat offenders each year.
Right.
Yeah.
But like CTR, it was the first time I'd ever put any bike rubber on any of the Colorado Trail ever.
Oh, wow.
Was on the race.
Dang.
And it was like, there was a lot of things I would do differently.
Yeah,
like,
but that's really special to be like a CT virgin on
right.
the CTR.
Yeah. I thought it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, maybe I'll have another chance to do it, but like there's a lot of resources that go into something like that. But like, you know, it was like go big or go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to go back and like run some of it and go see some of the stuff at night.
Yeah.
And I think there's something special, and maybe, you know, I'm sure you'll have this chance when you go back into the canyon and you'll do that. You'll repeat that and you'll be like, why was this so hard? Like, it's so much easier now without everything is easier now, right?
I want to go rim to rim to rim.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself I did not, it's by far does not compare to the 800. I'm not saying that, but it was like in its own right, caught me off guard at how difficult that was.
Yeah. How are you feeling now?
My calves.
Week out.
Yeah, my calves came back to life a couple days ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's when I decided to do Escape LA.
Oh wow, you just decided to do it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, I didn't promise Greg.
You've been thinking about it.
Well, yeah. So you know Greg Dunham. So he's the co-race director of Escape LA, and we finished together on CTR, and we really like trauma bonded or really became good friends at the end of that, right? And I was like half floated the idea that I'd be out in November for his race, and as it got closer, I was kind of like, I don't think it's gonna happen. And then last week I was like, I'm gonna make let's just make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know anything? Have you seen the website?
I've heard about it, and then I think I mentioned it to Matt this morning. He looked it up. There's a lot of climbing and not that many miles.
Yeah, it's like remarkable, like the amount of climbing, 44,000 in 315 miles or something.
Dang.
Which is like, you think you're on the beach, you know, and then all of a sudden you're going to be in some serious mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So decent amount of pavement.
I think there are definitely some sections, some connector bits.
So not a lot of gravel. Probably it's probably like single track or pavement.
Yep. I think so.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But the whole race is themed like the movie Escape from LA with Kurt Russell. Snake.
Yeah.
With
vague recollections. I'm going to have
Snake.
to watch it again now.
Yeah, so it's like John Carpenter, I think, directed it.
Yeah, was it like a dystopian, like...
It's a prison colony. I think LA became like a prison colony. And so the whole thing is like themed this way. Like you get emails from Snake. And like when you communicate, it's all to Snake. And you don't want to make Snake mad, you know, by not signing up for track leaders.
Oh, no, you don't.
And not donating to their local group. And so the theme is awesome. And, you know, and it's got like that kind of like LA vibes. Like there's a section where you come right by the Hollywood sign. You go through. So I'm really looking forward to like, not like just taking 3 or 4 days, going mellow. You know, you go through the set of MASH apparently.
What?
Yeah, which is, I
love MASH.
Yeah. Some people love it or hate it.
Yeah. I mean, have you spent any time in LA?
Not recently. Long time ago.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. It starts and ends in Santa Monica on the pier, and then it goes through like Thousand Oaks, and it's kind of the West LA area is where it starts. So I think it's kind of like a, you know, a little more like upscale area you're going through.
This is a newer event. Is it like second or third year?
Third year. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. So So it'll be exciting, but yeah. So I'm feeling I think the thing back to the rim to rim to rim, the thing that got me the most was my calves just weren't prepared for that kind of like descent.
Yeah.
And ascent. I think I just like overextended a bunch, and I mean I couldn't walk for it. We were like the Walking Dead. We were like zombies walking around my house.
Those flat miles from Phantom to Cottonwood were great, but they went by, and then other than that, it's like straight up or straight down, pretty much.
And I think it's like 7 miles down, 7 miles flat, and then 7 miles up.
Sounds about right.
Give or take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yes.
Well, you did it.
Yeah. No. So we got to the top in the dark, putting our bikes together.
Oh yeah.
And there were a couple people like finishing rim to rim to rim that had started at the North Rim.
Yeah.
And this very petite woman with a like bigger size than her, at least, guy came up, and Ryan and I are like zombies putting our bikes together, and she starts screaming and like cussing, and then she's sobbing, and we're like, okay, yeah, you did something hard, whatever, like we're not done with her. So like, what is wrong with this woman? And you know, she celebrated and whatever, and then she was like, last year I was diagnosed with brain cancer and like had a massive tumor, and I'm cancer free now. And I said if I survived, this was going to be the thing that I was going to do, and I just did the thing, and it was like, yeah, like chills.
Holy shit.
We were like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, inspiring. I want to do rim to rim to rim.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe explore ultra events without a bike on my back.
Really?
Really?
Running?
Yeah.
Like ultra
Maybe
foot race sort of stuff?
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you feel after the Stagecoach. If you want to share.
Yeah, no, I'll share. But I'm pretty much. So I lost a toenail. That was
Which one?
Big toenail, left side.
Of course, the big one.
Kicked a
Almost
rock
the big
coming
one.
down Snowball.
Oh.
Like hard kicked a rock, not just like normal bruised toe. Like
Dang.
basically broke the nail at the back of the nail bed.
Uh-huh.
And it was like loose in the back, so it created a bunch of pockets, and it was really painful for like
the rest of, yeah.
It was extremely painful during it. I tried to kind of compartmentalize that a little bit. My feet were just like not in, this is 4 weeks after CTR. I thought CTR would be decent training camp for.
You were still fatigued.
I think so, yeah. Like probably too early. I really wanted to be done at 50 miles because I had done the duo the year prior with Jess, and she picked up at like 56 miles. So when I got back to that same spot, I was like, I'm kind of over this.
I don't want to do it again.
I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
And I've been over it bikepacking before, but I guess I'm like more passionate about it, or I don't know. I didn't have that like.
Bikepacking, you can sit and spin or coast.
Yeah, you can definitely have many different positions that can give you like a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
And running, you have like jog, old man shuffle, and then sit
Or stop.
Or stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I think the thing that actually took me out was, and we alluded to this earlier, was access to luxury. That's my weakness in bikepacking, and that's my weakness in running. So I get to the 70-mile aid station, and there's like my wife's there.
Is that whole cabin?
It was it was Russell Tank.
Okay.
Yeah. Russell Tank. My wife's there. There's chairs. There's a campfire. There's food. There's blankets. It's starting to get cold. It's like, if I didn't have any of that and it was just like me and like the unforgiving forest,
Yeah.
I just would have been like, well, I gotta go.
If you didn't have the choice.
Yeah. I've done that on bikepacking trips too, where I'm close to home. I can't. I have a hard time resisting that urge, right? And so I'll do like Stagecoach in San Diego. Like I'm way out in the middle of I drove all the way by myself, and like I'm out in the middle of this thing, and I just got to finish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I loved about the canyon, is like I was in the pain cave a little bit there, but you don't have a choice. You're coming out of there.
It's not like you're calling a helicopter.
No.
Yeah.
You're not. You're in it. You got to go out. And I was in probably an equal pain cave, if not more, on rim to rim to rim, for sure, than on Stagecoach 100. But it was just, there was not a choice. So I think like that for me is difficult. Also, that's why I did not get hotels in CTR, was because hotels are just like they're a trap for me.
It's a time suck. I think I'm anti-hotel. I got one during AZTR.
Where at?
Gold Canyon.
Okay. Yeah. Right when you pop out right before the highway.
Yeah. So Queen Valley, there's like a little store there that was awesome.
Yeah, you hit it at the open hours?
Yeah.
Awesome.
LaDonna was her name. She was really sweet.
Yeah.
We got to Queen Valley, and realized we could get to Gold Canyon and get a hotel, I'd been riding with Brad Bergtorf, and he had a signal there. I did not. And he's like, boom, like Super 8 or whatever hotel it was. They got a room. I'm getting one. And I'm like, cool. I don't have a signal. I'm sure like it's a Monday night. They're not going to be full in the next couple hours before we get there. I'll get one when we get there. He's like, no, I'll just book it for you. And I'm like, part of me was like, no, don't do it. I don't think I want a hotel, but I didn't speak up. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll Venmo you. So I had a hotel room.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to not go to it once it was reserved for me.
Just because of your moral standings on hotels.
Exactly. But like in retrospect, like I get there, I'm like feel obligated to like do some sink laundry, and then I want it to get dry so I'm not cold in the morning when I put it on.
Yeah.
And like I'm wasting all this time. I'm not sleeping. Whereas like if I just bivvied outside of town, like I'd have slept for hours and got going like well before then. And would have just resupplied at Circle K instead of waiting for bashes to open. And I feel like, you know, hindsight being 2020, hotel's a mistake.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, so on CTR, what's Leadville? Leadville.
Yeah.
Greg and I were right by each other, and I passed a couple hotels, and it was like coming in at nighttime, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. You know, I was like trying to, and, you know, and then I find out that he went and got a hotel, and it ended up becoming a whole thing. They were like all disorganized, and they thought it was this room, but this room wasn't clear, and he ended up like
it was like
killing
stressful
like 3
instead
hours.
of restful.
Yeah. Yeah, and he regretted getting it. He later told me, he was like,
oh, so you went into town instead of, we told you to take the bypass.
I went through town. I wanted to see Leadville, and it was like underwhelming.
Leadville after dark.
Yeah, it was like, there was like people at 10 p.m. like sanding their doorways and stuff. There was some weird shit that I saw.
That sounds about right.
Outside of, it was, okay, Leadville was completely underwhelming. I mean, I had this vision in my mind that it was going to be like Copper Mountain. Because Copper Mountain is like super resort.
Oh, yeah.
Super dome resort.
Yeah.
Ville. Nothing under, you know, no burgers under $20 or whatever. And I get into Leadville, and it's like
Golden Borough and like good old miners.
this is like Western, you know, like this
Silver
is,
Dollar. There's some sketchy bars there.
yeah. I mean, I went through downtown at like 10 p.m., 11
Knife
p.m.
and Gun Club.
Yeah, it was an experience for sure. And then getting into the outskirts, like after you reconnect with the bypass, and then you do the big climb, the big gravel climb.
Up to Elbert Trailhead, yeah.
Yeah. So I slept somewhere up there, but like the houses out there in that area, it's very very weird vibes.
Log cabin, yeah.
You lived there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Worked in the hospital there. This like, Leadville. When I lived there, I don't know if it's still the case, but the Wikipedia page for Leadville compared it to, it was the closest you can get to Alaska in the lower 48.
No shit.
Just like kind of out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally got those vibes.
Oh yeah. It's strange because you're just like over the hill from like Copper and Breckenridge
Yep.
and like multi-million-dollar mansions, and it's like falling down cabins, and
Yeah.
it's definitely gone through a bit of a revitalization the last few years, Leadville has, but there's still a lot of like old Leadville present there, like multi-generational miners and
Is it like a lot of the blue collar workers and stuff that work at the resorts kind of live in that area?
a lot of migrant
too?
workers
Yeah.
will bedroom in Leadville, and you know, multiple families in an apartment. Yeah.
I mean, there was a whole mini community outside of Leadville leading into it that was like Little
Trailer park.
Mexico.
Yep.
There was like Mexican music. It reminded me of the predominantly Hispanic community that I grew up in when I was in like an elementary school, like near the border.
Yeah.
It was very like, got those vibes, like people partying, and the types of cars were like, you know, like Latin cars.
Yeah, there's a lot of undocumented population there. So very, I would say it's lower SES than you would think for Central Colorado. I worked in a clinic at the high school for a spell in Leadville. And the year I was there, the senior class graduation rate was about 60%.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the same as basically the high school I went to was, like most of the girls got pregnant and dropped out. Yeah. No, I mean, it was a reality.
That sucks, but yeah.
And you basically like, in order to get, for me growing up, it was, you didn't have to be like a high-end performer, like academically to get scholarships. You just had to be like medium of the road.
Had to get by.
Yeah. You basically just had to get to graduation.
Yeah.
Right. And there was a lot more like government funded tuition and stuff floating around back in those days than there is now. But, and so I definitely got those vibes out of it. Now, I like that better. Like I identify more with that. Like they don't judge you.
Right. You feel a little bit like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Going into Resupply at Copper than
any place you can't like park your bike or someone like balks at you parking a bike somewhere.
Yeah.
Or like looks at you weird. Like I'm out. Like fuck that. I'm not into that. Right. I'd rather have like, people who are cool. Who don't like judge you.
Totally.
When you're going through bike packing.
Speaking of not being judged, I've told this story a few times. In Payson, there's a lot of homeless in Payson.
Seems like it's more recently, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a new thing.
Yeah. I had never spent any time in Payson, but went to Big Five. There's a Subway next door.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to eat fresh right now. Went in, ordered my sub and, several bags of chips, one of every cookie. And I'm like, I can't sit down in here. I'm too gross. I'm going to go sit on the sidewalk outside. Sit down, lean against the post that my bike's next to. And there's a guy at the next post over who is obviously living on the streets, also eating a foot-long sub.
Yeah.
He looks over at me, I look at him, and he's like, hey, can I ask, are you homeless? And I just had to pause because I didn't know how to answer.
Yeah.
So I kind of chuckled and I'm like, I get kind of right now. And I explained to him that I was doing this bike packing race and he's like, oh, that's cool. And told me a little bit about himself. His name's Anthony. Going through some tough times. And he just turned 63 earlier that month. And I'm like, oh shit, when's your birthday? I just had a birthday. He's like, October 12th. I'm like, that's my birthday.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's like just this like very strange, like parallel worlds, like from very different worlds to like, have dinner with Anthony, who's my birthday twin at Subway while we're both homeless. It was just a weird, like surreal experience.
Totally. I've totally been there. On Stagecoach, I was in the same sort of situation outside of a gas station eating a pint of ice cream. Right? And, but it's like it's the thing that, we're putting ourselves there. That's the one thing that's different,
by choice.
Right? Yeah. That's the difference.
Temporary
right?
homelessness. It was just weird to like connect and like talk about my daughter, talk about his mother and like have this weird human connection with this person whose path I would never have crossed if I hadn't put myself in that position.
Right. And it does do that, right? It does put you into these perspectives that you normally won't be in, like almost like psychedelic perspectives. Like when you take a step back and you look at these things with a different lens, right? That because your day, you're just going through your emotions of your day, right? You're just going to the work, you're going home and you're doing the dinner and you're doing the mom thing and you're,
in your very own little bubble.
Yep.
And,
and everything's just kind of existing around you. And then you take time to, meditating provides this and psychedelics provide this. But sometimes bikepacking just on the natural provides this, right?
Puts you into an altered mental state for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it puts you in places where you have unique experiences every time. Every time. I've never had not a weird, like there's always been like I did VVR. We did a touring trip and we got this hotel in Camp Verde and it was like the most bizarre, methed out hotel I'd ever been in. There's like, we pull up to the office and there's like a guy. They're all living in the hotel room next to the office, and there's like a guy laying on the bed, like fully wrapped in like medical, like he had gotten in a car accident or something, just like laying there with like bloody bandages all over him, like laying in the bed. like right next to the office. And the lady's like, hold on, we'll get you checked in. And we're both like, okay, we got the $70 hotel. Maybe we should have gotten and we made the guy from California reserve it, which was a stupid idea, right? Like, that was our bad. It was our friend's dad who was with us. We had him. He's from California. We had him reserve all the hotels. But he was like, it doesn't look like it did in the pictures on the internet.
This guy like wrapped in bloody bandages wasn't in any of the pictures.
Yeah, and I'm just like, guys, let's get our hotel room. Let's get our bikes in. Like, let's just get things out of sight for now. Like, that's our first goal. Like, and they were both just like, what do we do? It's like, let's get on with this, But I've had other weird experiences like in Cottonwood and really weird experiences in San Diego doing Stagecoach, going through like the homeless encampments there in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
Because Stagecoach is the kind of route where like you have to do real selective camping. Like, you can't stop.
Interesting.
You just got to keep moving. So
yeah, that's another factor that has never occurred to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's like, you're at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. going along these kind of canals, and there's just like drug use, and it's like really super like urban, environment. So I don't know. And I expect a little bit of that maybe with Escape LA, maybe.
Yeah.
But there is like some upscaled sections, or it's like mostly upscaled.
That you feel like you can't camp in either.
Oh, definitely. There's like strategic camping there for sure. And they did they did a pre-race meeting, and they were like, you guys gotta really pay attention to this.
Okay.
You really have to camp in the right spots. You can't just like pull off on a ditch somewhere.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Like CTR, like it was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like everywhere.
Free for all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was great. And the water situation was great. So, can we take a quick break? I gotta pee.
Same.
Okay. Okay, so couple things. Back to Payson really quick. We were talking about Payson.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a big like growing homeless population, it seems, which is interesting because Payson's like very conservative and very like right leaning.
I can see it. I thought like, are we really close to reservations there that I didn't realize?
I guess there's the White Mountain Apache to the east, over by Pine Top Lakeside area.
Yeah.
Sholo.
It could be one of the bigger towns.
Was it a lot of like native homeless?
No, not that I could say for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we were down there, it was like just like white homeless people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of like prevalent everywhere now. That's really the whole like van life thing. I mean, we had a giant school bus parked in our neighborhood that was just like somebody looking for a place to park. Like, they didn't know anybody in the neighborhood. Yeah. It's weird,
Yeah.
Like, if you know somebody, that's one thing. If you're like a friend of the neighbor person,
that's why you land in a place, is because you know somebody. Maybe there was like a falling out, or there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Well, it's like go to the woods. You got 14 days. You have national forest. Like, don't park in the neighborhood. Like, people don't know what you're doing here.
Fair, yeah. Where are you taking care of your bodily fluids and?
Yeah. I've heard that's been a real problem for some people in some neighborhoods.
Yeah, and it's not just that it's gross, but like hepatitis A and like there's
a sanitation issue there.
There's a problem, yeah.
But it's what's been weird is, ever since COVID, like it blew up in COVID, and they're like the van life thing, but there's like a spectrum of van life, right? There's like the Sprinter van on one side, which is like the
weekend warriors, yeah.
Very people that have a lot of resources and they're doing it for pleasure. And then there's the people during COVID that basically lost their jobs or didn't have any other way to live, and they moved into their cars. And I think what changed societally is it became less taboo to do that.
Romanticized for a spell, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
On social media, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm guilty. I went down like the YouTube videos of like I game in my van and I do secret stealth camping in my Sprinter. And it's like, here's one day in a van life, And
yeah.
like, it's like definitely romantic. But I mean, you have a van, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Do you like how many days can you stay in that thing together?
Right. Well, everything changed after baby.
Right.
Yeah. Prior to, like, a couple weeks in there, no problem.
Okay.
Like, winter camping, like, we'd go up to Canada, Rogers Pass, like, and, you know, spend 4 or 5 days, like, skiing outside, living in the van with a propane heater.
Yeah.
But now, like, it's starting to, like, lose its luster a little bit, especially as the baby grows and becomes less of a baby and is more mobile and more needy and more temper tantrum throwing. It's more, we use it for, like, long road trips. And we still van in it and camp in it, but definitely less so. And I think we're even kind of conversing about, like, do we probably need to look at trading this in for, like, a pull behind, like, like a large size kind of teardrop, I think is what we're probably going to land on in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how often do we use it now? We have family in Salt Lake City that love to watch a toddler, which is how we did Bones to Blue. We'll be visiting them this winter and then again next summer. So maybe every other month we'll go for a trip in the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much as we used to at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can sleep in the back of the truck. We have a shell on the truck. It's okay for a couple days, but you can't, like, stand up in it.
Yeah.
It's really, like, good for, like, solo missions.
And when the weather's nice. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have, like, a little back for it in case we need to be in there when it's raining and keep it open. But, and I definitely got bit by the van desire bug for a second there. And then my frugal wife, we did the math together on, like, how many times are we going to do something and what's the cost of ownership of it, and then what's, like, the cost of, like, just doing a hotel each time, and is it
or a really nice Airbnb.
Yeah, like, is it, like, so, like, if you put your situation on paper, there's a break-even point, right? And, like, are you close to that, or, you know? And so for everybody's, that's different on how much they actually use it. And for our situation, we're, like, kind of homebodies. I mean, we go do these things, but, like, it's not every weekend, you know? It's maybe like 4 times a year, maybe. And so, and that's not getting any more. It's not going to become more frequent if we got a van. And I think that, and my parents were always, like, trailer people. They always had trailers, not RVs. They always had, like, pull behind trailers, like decent sized pull behind trailers. And so I kind of grew up with that, like, always having that around. And I think she's got me fully converted. Just more so, I don't want to deal with so we did have a pop-up camper, like a little pop-up thing.
Yeah.
That was, like, from the 80s, and we bought it for, like, $1,200. And I mean, I could, like, take it out and just probably abandon it if I wanted to. Like, if I broke it to the point where I just needed to leave it somewhere, I could. But that thing was okay, except for she did a 100-mile run in near Virgin, Utah. Bryce
St. George, Zion.
Hurricane. Yeah,
Hurricane.
Zion. She did the Zion 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds gorgeous.
Running race. Yeah, it was a great time. And so we were crewing, me and one of her friends were crewing her, and it was just, like, insane winds, like, I don't know, 30, 40 mile per hour winds.
Not good.
And I'm in this pop-up at, like, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm laying there thinking I'm going to die.
It's going to, like, pick me up, and we're going to have, like, a Dorothy situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a real possibility. I mean, the whole thing's like, there's, like, metal rods popping out and stuff, because it's, like, all held together with these, like, old school metal rods. And so, like, there's one metal rod that holds, like, the end canvas part out. And that thing pops out in the middle of the night and goes, like, flinging across the inside of the tent camper.
Oh, scary.
And the whole thing collapses, like, the whole side collapses, because that was the only thing, like, holding on to it. And so me and her friend were like, fuck this, we're gonna die in here, and I'm not gonna die tonight. So we just go sleep, like, in the truck, like in the seats of the truck, for the rest of the night. And then that was it. I was like, never doing a pop-up again. If I ever do something it's gonna have hard sides. Yeah. Right.
Dang.
And I mean, it was good, like, while it lasted, and I learned a lot through the process, but the versatility of a van, you know, the van is definitely, like, the best tool for the job when it comes to doing these like races, these like 100-mile races where you're constantly driving around.
Yep.
And you have to like meet your
You're
crew.
entirely enclosed. There's no setup, tear down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can stand up inside, and your runner or whoever can come in and lay down, and you can have like an enclosed place to cook and all that stuff. And you can't get campers in some of these spots that, like on Cocodona, you have to get to the, it's up, oh my God, it's escaping me. It's way up in the mountains, Crown King. You have to get up to Crown King, and there's like no parking in Crown King. And so, good luck. You're not bringing a camper up there.
No.
Right, a pull behind. They won't even let you bring it, but they'll let you drive a van up there for your crew.
Ours is 4-wheel drive. It's got pretty decent clearance. Let me know if you want to borrow it for Jess's next thing.
I'll rent it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll rent it from you guys if you're looking for some passive income.
Hell yeah.
Because, like, I actually told her, like, if we ever do something that's, like, multi-day like this again, I want to rent a van because it's, like, the right tool,
Yeah.
So, and we're hauling around dogs. We're not hauling around kids, but we're hauling around dogs, and sometimes that's, a thing, too.
Yeah. It, like, we've got, like, insulated window coverings, so in the daytime, like, it stays cool in there for dogs.
Nice.
Yeah.
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 All right, cool. Well, I might hit you up on that. We'll see what her plans are. So I want to go back to Arizona Trail Race. I had a couple questions. There was a little bit of a misroute asterisk sort of thing going on with Saguaro.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can blame the Garmin glitch, but it did like turn off right around this time. I got there right about sunset.
Yeah.
And I missed a turn in an arroyo or something. I might have been following some tread. I think another rider might have done the same thing ahead of me. I don't know exactly who. But I ended up adding a couple miles. John texted me and he's like, yeah, I think the way you went takes longer than the current route. And I guess I more or less followed a previous version of the AZT.
You sure did.
So, oops. I did realize that I was off route and was on my way to Rockin' K. And was probably like 2 miles from Rockin' K on the pavement and 20 minutes from when they were going to close. And I thought about it and I'm like, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Like there's all these events have slightly different rules. And I remember like reading something in the rules about how you could miss like a certain percentage of the route and still be considered a finisher. And I was like, well, hopefully I'm under that, whatever that number is with this. And I'm going to get back on route and try not to do this again. And, just elected that the resupply was more important to me than going back and riding those miles.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choice you had to make.
Yeah.
I probably would have made the same choice.
It wasn't even just that it was getting dark. It was starting to rain then too. That's when it was like kind of sleeting on Mount Lemmon. It wasn't sleeting on me. It was just rain down low. But yeah, it was like multiple things like just all hit at once and missed some miles.
I heard there was a storm that came in that knocked a bunch of the 300s out or something.
Did it?
I don't. Yeah.
I remember looking up at Mount Lemmon and like couldn't see the top. It looked dark and like foreboding up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rain that got me was pretty mild.
Yeah.
It was not bad. It was enough to put my rain gear on, but
Did you bring rain pants and rain jacket?
no, I had a Gore-Tex like cycling shell jacket, a puffy jacket, and I wore the same Troy Lee Designs very lightweight riding pants the whole time. At the last minute when I checked the weather before I left Flagstaff for the border, I saw that there was a cold snap on the way, and I thought about like North Rim cold temperatures the year prior that were in the single digits, and I threw some like wool tights in that I only wore the last day of the race. Other than that, it was just those like really lightweight Troy Lee pants that I wore the whole time. They were awesome.
Yeah. So great with the cat claw.
Kept the sun off me, kept the cat claw and the choya at bay, and were pretty darn breathable. They have like Swiss like cheese grate holes
Yeah.
behind the knees and in the crotch, so they breathe really well.
Did you do flats or clip-ins?
I was so close to riding flats. I actually went to the shop, bought flat pedals like 2 days before we were going to go down, and did one of my last shakedown rides in Flagstaff in flats and rode like Rocky Ridge. And I'm like, this is fine. Like, I'm off and on the bike, like maybe slightly more than I would be, but it felt fine. My flat shoes I've had for a while. They're Ride Concepts. They're incredibly comfortable. I've bike packed on them before, just like an overnight with husband and baby. And I thought they'd be great. And then I looked closely, and the sole was peeling off of the shoe, like probably 75%, like the ball of the foot back to the heel was coming off. And I was like, nope, that is not how I'm starting this thing.
Yeah.
I like could have like tried to like glue it, but I'm like, to go do that in the hot desert with like glue holding my shoe together at the start, forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So put clipless pedals back on my bike and committed to that, and did the whole thing in Bontrager Averts.
Okay.
And they work great. Like, hiked the canyon in them. I took the cleats off for the hike through the canyon, but yeah, my feet were pretty happy the whole time. I did. Oh, I don't know what podcast you mentioned moving your cleats back.
CTR.
Yeah. So rolling into picket post, I was starting to have tenderness under the ball of my foot. And I thought it was because the sole of my shoes had split in both shoes. And this is the second pair of these shoes that I've had, and it had happened before. And I don't know how many hundreds of miles I rode on the previous pair of shoes before I realized that the sole had split, like right in front of the cleat, like the cleat plate had split in half. And it didn't bother me with the first pair. So I was like, it's going to happen during these 800 miles and I'll just drive on.
Yeah.
But the pain was kind of like where the split was, and I felt like a pinching, and I'm like, oh crap. Like, I'm going to have to get new shoes and switch to flats halfway through this race. And then it was actually the hotel at Gold Canyon that I was like, why don't I move the cleat back and see what happens? So I pushed it all the way back. Feet felt fine after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a thing.
yeah.
I mean, I learned that lesson way too late.
Yeah.
You know, like I was in way too much pain. I should have done that days before.
Yeah. Well, my last CTR in 2021, I had, I was on the same hardtail that I rode this race on, clipless pedals, and I had intense foot pain, and half my foot went numb, and it stayed that way for at least a month after the race.
Yeah.
And I think it was probably the cleat position. Like, at the time, I blamed it on being on a hardtail with clipless pedals, and maybe that like played a little bit of a factor, but like just moving that cleat back under my arch from under the ball of my foot was huge.
Yeah.
So thanks, Endurance Studio.
Yeah.
Taking one for the team.
My pain. Yeah. No, so that, I mean, that's a huge thing. And it had never happened before anything more than 4 days. So like a 4-day and under event, I would feel a little bit of it, but it never really got to the point where it required intervention.
Because picket post was about 4 days for me. Yeah.
So that and so now I'm in this for Escape LA. I'm trying. So I bailed on the Pearl Izumi X Alp Summits, which are a very popular shoe.
Yep.
But they just fall apart.
I think that's what Ryan was wearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And they just separate at the toe where the carbon plate is and where the toe box is. They just separate there at the tread. Not to the point where anything enters the shoe, because I had that happen too. I was on Adidas Trail Cross, 510 Adidas Trail Cross.
Clipless?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, like the first generation that they had them. This was 2 years ago on the 300, and I actually ate all the way through the toe box on it to the point where it opened a hole in the front. And so there was, pebbles, and every time I would hike, there would just be stuff entering my shoe, like from Mount Lemmon on.
It's a lot of hiking.
Yeah, and it was just like, and then I made a stupid race brain decision on Mount Lemmon and like didn't go look for new shoes because I could have gone, I guess, to the.
There's a shop in Summerhaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They probably didn't have your size, and you would have got a wrong size and been miserable.
But I could have gone to a hardware store and like figured something else. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so won't do those again. The 510, or sorry, the Pearl Izumi X Alp Summits, I just keep warranting those over and over again.
Yeah.
And
probably going to be doing that with my Bontraggers.
Like, I'm just like, I only rode one ride.
Just one ride, come on.
And look at it. What kind of shoe is this? What kind of manufacturing quality is this? Anyway, because they got sold or something. Pearl Izumi.
Pearl did?
Yeah. They got like sold off to some other company.
Figures.
And so they're just like, here, have some free shoes. You know, they're just like, whatever, have some free shoes. And so now I'm on to Kurt Ruff Snyder's suggestion, which are Shimano GE 900s, which he did this Continental Divide Trail on.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, that
guys
thing,
in the shop really like Shimano shoes.
They, like, Shimano seems to just, like, they really vet everything out, right? They really take their time to really just, like, vet out everything. I mean, I'm a diehard Shimano. I keep leaning that way.
I'm not gonna
come on, bring it
on their components, but their shoes seem to be solid.
What's wrong with their components?
I
love this.
Well, their clutch mechanism needs service. Like, you can't just like, SRAM doesn't have a clutch, doesn't need servicing. Like, their derailleurs just go. They're bomb-proof. In regards to brakes, I know a lot of people really like the Shimano bite point feel, and if they're like recently bled and not at the end of their lives, they do well, but they do have a lifespan. Eventually, that master cylinder seems to fail, and in most of their products, and I don't know if it's like the mineral oil is inferior over time and exposed to elements than dot fluid, or what it is, but sorry, I'm a SRAM girl.
That's okay. I love this debate. So I'll give it to you on the brake fluid, right? Because like logically, it makes more sense to me that like cars use hydraulic .3 brake fluid for a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a long history of that working well, in driving scenarios, right, where there's a lot more on the line
at varying temperatures.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Right, and it's like tried and true. So I'll give you that, right? I think the downside is like when you are doing the maintenance, so like you got to be more careful with the dot fluid than with the.
It's nasty stuff.
Mineral oil. Yeah. You got to be really.
You have to take measures and wear gloves, but when in a bike packing race, are you stopping to mess with brake fluid? Right. Hopefully not ever.
Yeah. I think that the at least the brake feel comment, like SRAM had me there for a while on their brake feel. It just had like a tighter brake feel. It just felt more confidence inspiring. Okay. For me, where Shimano had like kind of this more like a more feathery kind of feel to it, where it was just a little softer, which didn't work well for like 2-piston brakes for me.
Okay.
But when I got 4 pistons on the XTR 4 pistons, it kind of solved that issue for me. Like for me, it's the perfect balance between like a nice confidence inspiring feel and a kind of a brake you can feather a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've only had good things to say about the 4-piston XTRs. And Colorado Trail, I had plenty of time to test that.
Yeah. You didn't find that they faded on long descents, like heated up?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Nope. Yeah. XTR rotors, 180 mil rotors, so that probably helps. Fairly light setup for that brake setup. I mean, that was like a trail / enduro sort of brake setup.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 5 years ago. And now they're putting them on downcountry bikes.
Yeah,
which is cool.
It's the way of the industry for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can get the weight down, a better brake's always better, right?
Yeah.
Before it was just a weight factor, right? I feel like SRAM is they're first to market on a lot of stuff, which is commendable, but I feel like their testing it kind of sacrifices that a little bit. I mean, they were first to market on the 50 tooth.
Uh-huh.
With the Eagle.
Yeah.
You know, SRAM took a couple more years, or sorry, Shimano took a couple more years to come out with the 51 12-speed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I had Axis on my Ripley.
I know you hate the Axis.
And I just wasn't like...
I think it's not for bike packing.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bad idea for bike packing.
Yeah.
We might have talked about this on the last podcast.
We might have. Yeah, I warrantied an Axis after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, look, I mean, so Shimano's Di2 system, the battery is like the battery's like all the way up in the seat tube. It's like protected.
Yeah, but it's like a wired electric shift. It's like, why? What are we gaining here?
It's not wireless shifting.
Right.
It is wireless wired. in that the brifters now are fully wireless.
Okay.
So they don't have they don't have a mountain bike wireless system yet, right? But they do have the Di2, and they have a gravel version of the Di2 that they converted the brifters to wireless. So those do send a signal, but everything else is wired. So it's basically like, you could think of it like an electronic signal shifting system, right? That's because that's what it's sending.
Have you run Di2?
No.
I haven't even worked on one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just read about it because when I went down this like SRAM Axis rabbit hole, I learned all about this stuff to try and formulate an opinion on it. And I think it's interesting that Shimano hasn't like jumped into that market yet, you know?
That is interesting. I'd be interested to hear from Shimano about why they're not going down that trajectory that SRAM seems to be pretty deep into.
Yeah.
But
well, my speculation is that the positioning of the battery with the connectors at the derailleur is a problem. Mm-hmm. No matter what, you have to keep that enclosed.
Yeah.
You're gonna get water in there. You're gonna get junk in there, and it's gonna create issues. But it's easy and it's accessible and it's easy to change. So I think SRAM made this choice, like, you know, for back to like the Garmin thing. 90%, 95, 99% of our riders,
day riders
of our use case, don't have any problems.
Right? They did relocate the battery to put it in a more protected location on the latest transmission.
Yeah.
But it's still hanging down there where all the shit is.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the transmission? What is the advantage of transmission?
So it doesn't use a derailleur hanger. It's like UDH frame compatible.
Okay.
But it like connects by like grabbing around. Like there's two pieces and then a bolt that goes through and then your frame in the middle.
Okay.
So in theory, it's a lot stronger. And like in some of their release videos, they showed a guy standing on the derailleur with the bike like on the side on the ground.
Whoa.
Yeah. We don't recommend that.
Yeah.
We've seen some break in like really interesting and embarrassing ways, but I think they are stronger.
Are they trying to get rid of the idea of a derailleur hanger?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fail. It's designed to fail, right?
Yeah, it's a weak point, intentional weak point, right?
Yeah. So I think they're just trying to like burly it up, make it stronger. The T-type chain, so it has a very expensive, arguably stronger chain. Too soon to tell.
It looks pretty too.
Yeah, it's like
flat on top,
kind of
right?
like Terminator looking. Yeah, flat top.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But they're pricey, and we'll see like how fast they wear and like durability long term. Like it's mountain bike, things are gonna break. So yeah. I had a transmission bike. It was like my trail bike. And eventually, once I kind of figured things out, it felt great. But after I had my issues with the axis, I'm like, this is not what I want in a bike packing bike, and I want my bikes to be versatile so that I can take any bike to do any of the things I want to do on it. So I'm not currently running transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think Shimano, we're going to see if Shimano makes a good pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Because I got 44,000 feet.
All right.
over 300 miles.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some hiking on there.
No, you're going to put some miles on those shoes. I hope they're awesome. Have you ridden on them yet?
Yeah, I did. No, I rode on the trainer yesterday.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So you're taking brand new shoes out?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I might get one ride in this weekend. Like, I don't think the break-in period, that was the first thing my wife said to me was, you're going to break them in, right? I'm like, yeah, well, I want to make sure, like, the cleat positioning's right and, like, that they fit right and, you know, like, but I don't think it's, famous last words, but I don't think it's, like, nearly as important as running shoes with the break-in period.
Wait, did I already ask you? They're flats? You're going flat?
No, they're clipless.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought after CTR you were like,
I was.
never clipless again.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
And then I talked to a few people, and they were like, try this, like, middle of the road. Like, because here's the thing.
What pedals are you?
Oh, that was the other part of this. So it was it's specifically the shoe pedal combo. So Shimano makes Shimano, of course, always Shimano, makes these XTR, like, all mountain
Trail
pedals,
Yeah,
with
that
big
have
platforms
a
on
little
them.
bit of a platform in
Yep.
addition to the cleat interface.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that'll give a little bit of, like, front to back stability.
Yeah.
When you're standing, because that was part of the problem on CTR, was just like my feet were like curling over the pedals.
Yeah.
Just the pain, you know.
Any kind of flex in your shoe, it just like magnifies that.
So, you know, whatever Kurt Ruffsnyder says, I take as gospel.
It's fair.
So if
Yeah.
he did CDT on this combo, it has to be vetted for that. So I'm going with it. We'll see. There's something about the shoe and that pedal combo that he says just provides that extra stability.
Awesome.
And, you know, jam those cleats all the way to the back and get them over, like, the thickest part of your foot, basically.
Yeah.
Like, towards the back of the ball of your foot. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of key, it sounds like. So
I feel like my cleats were pretty much to my arch.
yeah,
like
I guess.
anterior part of the arch of my foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of it, the problem for me with it being up further was it was sticking out just the cleat was sticking out a little bit from the shoe, which was every step it was putting a little bit of extra pressure on the cleat instead of on the shoe. And it was just creating that.
Every pedal stroke.
Yeah.
And every step.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like I couldn't get relief no matter what I did. You know, and
Miserable.
yeah, until I just sat down and I was like, just freaking deal with this.
I hope this is the perfect combination.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. Haha, pun intended. Right? Get it? So back to Arizona Trail Race. Anything you would have left behind? Like,
Less water capacity.
did you use that 8 liters? So you said you had 8 liters at the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that full at any time? Like all 8 liters?
Just from the border. I left the border totally full at capacity. That was a mistake. Like, I hadn't even got through half my water before I came to a nice cot tank, I think, like refill. So I like left with, how many pounds is that? 2 pounds per liter. So like 8 pounds heavier than I needed to, just water. So yeah, I would have brought less water capacity. I actually put a poll up on like the AZTR Facebook page beforehand, like how much water capacity are you bringing? And I think most racers were bringing between 6 to 8 liters. And I think 6 would have been more appropriate for me, especially being a smaller bodied rider. Just need less water and calories for my smaller body.
Yeah.
Those wool knickers I would have survived without. What else? I mean, I didn't use most of my repair kit, but, you know, not going to ride without that. I bring probably more first aid kit than I need as well. Other than that, it's pretty dialed,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Anything that you wish you brought, or did you bought some things halfway in, I think you said.
Yeah, in Payson, I bought a Brillier sleep pad,
Right.
which I could have, brought from home and brought a more appropriate one than what was available at Big Five.
Right.
And at Maverick and Flagstaff, I bought a fast charging block. I actually tried to get a bigger battery bank before I left Flagstaff, and just didn't have time to go enough places to get anything bigger than what I already had. So,
Did you use poles?
I did.
Okay.
I carried them from the start. And I got them like used at the gear consignment shop in Flag. And they worked fine, and I was glad I had them. Maybe I would have like paid the coin to get the premium ones that fold down smaller if I were to do it again, but those worked fine for my first time and everything. They managed to fit into my pack just barely. But I bought warmer gloves. Frances Hacker lent me during Pinions and Pines 2 years ago her neoprene gloves that she'd been wearing for colder spots, and they were like little heaven relief for my hands at the time. So I brought those and some Gore-Tex over mitts for hand warmth, and I didn't end up wearing the Gore-Tex mitts at all. The neoprene just didn't feel warm enough. Like, it didn't really feel much warmer than I had like some Hestra padded cycling gloves. And the neoprene didn't really feel any warmer than those. I ended up buying like some hobo mittens at Maverick and Flagstaff, the kind that like they're mittens that like turn into fingerless gloves.
Yeah.
That were just like some polyester fleece line crap, but they were great. And my like preferred winter riding gloves when I'm like fat biking and, you know, below freezing temperatures is a pair of leather Kinkos. That's what I ski in too.
Is that the brand name? Kinkos?
Yeah, you get them like hardware stores.
Oh, okay.
Actually, like have them on my bike right now because it was like 30 degrees when I rode in to work this morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would have rather had those than like the Gore-Tex neoprene combo or the hobo mittens.
So are they like lined on the inside? The
Yeah.
Kinkos?
Yeah.
Okay. And leather on the outside? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Those would do pretty good. Because
Yeah.
I've seen people with like work gloves, like as they buy leather gloves on trail.
Yep. Karen, she actually lost one of hers, and I saw it, and I should have picked it up in the Grand Canyon, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But she has like leather black diamond gloves that look very similar to the Kinkos. They're probably just more expensive and maybe a little bit more robust. I don't know. But
What about socks and feet and warmth and stuff like that?
yeah, pretty good. Those Bontrager Averts they're like a thicker. There's suede upper, suede and canvas, and they've got like a little bit of insulation to them. And then I had like a very thin pair of Smart Wool socks, which I wore probably 80% of the time, 2 of the days. One of them being the last day. I wore a thicker pair of wool. They're SRAM branded. I don't know what the sock brand is, but thicker wool socks. The only other day I wore those, I think, was on the Lemon Push, and I just wanted to wear clean socks, I think. And that night, my legs swelled up, and I didn't take my socks off. And I have I've got like linear circumferential abrasions around my lower calves from my socks like cutting into my calves.
Whoa.
I've not swollen up before. Like Karen was telling me how she swells all the time.
Yeah.
Like just normal life and even more so during bikepacking races. But that was my first time with swelling. I don't know why it happened after the Lemon Push, but electrolytes or combination of exertion and I don't know. But
yeah.
But those were my only 2 pair of socks. I sink washed them and like creek washed them like once.
Yeah.
Yeah. But wool for sure is
Merino.
is my my win for footwear.
Yeah, merino
and
wool
underwear.
is magic.
Yep.
Definitely. If it gets wet, it's not bad either.
Right.
And so you went to the Maverick by Flagstaff.
I did.
Instead of the other gas station.
Instead of the Conoco. I've been to the Conoco on a like day ride, training ride.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but it was worth it to me to ride 2 extra miles to get like the hot burritos, the 500 calorie cookies that are so bomb.
The full
like,
Maverick treatment.
Oh, it was so good. I charged up there, used the bathroom. Yeah.
That Conoco's weird.
That Conoco is like a kind of like a trucker vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a great selection. And I knew like the whole field had been through there right before me. I'm like, there's not going to be anything left there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to Maverick.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It was the only Maverick, the whole like route for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was another one, I think, in Tucson that would have been out of the way. And I ended up going to Rock and K instead.
Yeah.
And Rock and K was awesome. But yeah, that Maverick was nice.
So,
it's a little gem.
Like when you hit that Maverick, like what do you have stuff in mind that you want to get, or do you browse, or like what's your plan? Do you count the calories?
I'm not a calorie counter. Maybe it would help. I'm not sure. Like I know people who are calorie counters who have run out and had to ration.
Yeah.
I usually just kind of like maybe I get a little bit too much and I probably carry a little bit too much. But that's worked well for me thus far. But order of operations is like start by finding an outlet that works and get my shit charging. And then I'll usually like get in the bathroom, try and do like quick hygiene, like put out any fires. And then eat, like get some food in me, chill out for a little bit, like get some data about what's coming up next, like how long until next resupply, make sure my water's where I need it to be, and then start packing up and just make sure I've got all the calories and feel well fed, and then hopefully I've charged enough and get on the road. Like my goal is usually like in a race like the AZTR where the resupplies are few and far between, and it's sometimes a couple days between them. I like to spend under an hour resupplying, and I think I was pretty close to making that goal. Tucson on McDonald's, I was there probably longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty fried there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the finish, or maybe the few miles leading into the finish.
Yeah. So I was actually, this is the closest I came to running out of calories, was going into the finish.
Did you stop at Jacob Lake?
I didn't. I thought about it. I thought I was going to have to. And Ryan and I had been kind of yo-yoing. Like he caught up. I left the rim. We both camped at the admin building on the North Rim. I was inside the heated bathroom.
Oh.
It was magical.
There's a water spigot, right? A year-round frost-proof water spigot.
Yeah.
And a heated bathroom open year-round.
Yes. It was open.
Pro tip.
It was open for us. I don't know if it's year-round every year, but
Okay.
it was open for us, and it was so good.
It's amazing.
And he didn't want to stay in the bathroom, and I was like, "Are you sure? You're sure? I'm going in there." Like, I think he was nervous that one of the rim to rimmers was going to finish and want in there, and like he'd have to move out, and it would like disrupt him. But nobody knocked on the door the whole night, and I think I left around 4 a.m. Anyways, got through the next section. There was a little bit of pushing through the snow, but it was early enough that it was fairly frozen and could stay on top of it. Got to Jacob Lake, kind of checked. Ryan had a signal and was there at the same time as me. Jacob Lake, the actual like store with the amazing cookies, is about a 2-mile detour. And he's like, it looks like guys are taking like 3 hours to get from here to the finish. And I was like, ooh, that's fast.
Yeah.
It was like another 20 miles, I think, with some up down, but more descending than climbing for sure in that last bit. And then before I think we got going, and he's like, actually, it looks like it's more like between 4 to 6 hours that people are taking. Like one guy did it in 3.5 hours. Anyhow.
New information.
yeah. I guess it varies. That section was pretty cool. I had ridden a little bit of it before on a shop ride on our way to our annual shop trip. And they're decently like rideable, even on a single speed, fast miles compared to the rest of the AZT, which is a really nice way to end it. I don't know when, but there was a significant burn there in the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a storm coming in. We were kind of racing weather at the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got snowed on a little bit as we were leaving North Rim area. And you could just like see it coming in behind us as we were riding away.
Wow.
Yeah, so we managed to not get caught in it, but there was a lot of wind. And we were riding through this forest that had been like badly burned with a lot of trees. And I made a comment to Ryan at some point. I'm like, this is not where you want to stop in one place for any amount of time.
Yeah.
And we got to a cattle gate and I'm like, I gotta pee. He's like, cool, I'll see you in a little bit. And I stopped and I peed and I watched a tree come down in front of me. I was like, okay, motivation, let's keep going. Yeah. But needless to say, we were like off and on our bikes a lot, lifting over freshly down trees in that section. And then eventually you start to drop down lower as you're getting close to Utah and the dirt turns red. And it's pretty cool riding. It's like a kind of a blend of like gooseberry and Sedona because it's that red dirt and rocks and like kind of like up onto like mesas and down the backside. And there was some hike-a-bike at the end that I think got some people down, but I was just like, these are pretty fast miles. And eventually I think we had dropped low enough that the wind wasn't a factor anymore. And it was just like fun riding. And I was racing the sun because I wanted to finish before it got dark.
Yeah.
And I finished, I don't know, 20 minutes after sunset. So it wasn't like full dark. You could kind of like see the spooky lights behind me still. Rolled into State Line. Matt, Annabelle, and Karen Pocock were still there.
Yeah.
Ryan was there. So it was like kind of cool. It wasn't, just getting to a finish line by yourself.
Yeah.
There's the monument. They had like a huge spread of snacks, but for some reason my appetite like disappeared upon finishing.
Yeah.
Matt had caught a ride from Esther to Page and had a rental truck. And then my husband, Matt Bowe, was driving from Flagstaff to come pick me up and was going to pick up Matt and Karen as well.
Yeah.
So we all like threw everything into Matt and Annabelle's rental truck and drove to Page and got in Matt Bowe's van and got back to Flagstaff, and I was in my bed that night.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Super sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby woke up like in the middle of the night in the wee hours and crawled into bed with us, and I got to snuggle her pretty promptly after my finish.
Cool.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were, was it a good length of time? Like, were there moments where you were like, I'm in the groove, I want this to keep going a little bit? Were you happy with the amount of time? Was it too long?
I think it probably erred on the side of too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. My goal was to finish at 12 days, and I came in under that.
Yeah.
It was a long time to be away from a 2-year-old.
Yeah, 11 days, 12 hours, and 19 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like happy with my time, and it worked out really well for getting picked up at the end and not getting caught in that storm, and like everything went pretty darn perfectly. But a lot of the time out there, Dylan, I was like questioning, like, what am I doing out here?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? The two guys I rode with during the race, Brad and Ryan, I think they both asked me at some point, like, so what made you want to do this? With a 2-year-old at home, especially.
Right.
And maybe I just imagined that last part of the daughter being a part of it, but I like struggled to really like have a good answer. But I think like the closest I come to it is like just being able to like prove that like women, moms can go and do these really hard things. Like it's possible, and to like be a role model to my daughter, even if she hates bikes, but like, hey, you can push yourself, you can do things that are hard. and that it can be good for you. And I think it really was like good for me and like the family relationship to be away from him. Like you come back like with a very different perspective on what's real and what's important, and not sweat the small stuff as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does reset you. Did you feel guilty at all?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For leaving.
Yeah. Matt and I try and take turns and balance, and I feel like he defaults to just like not having his calendar full and having like open spaces, and I default to shoving and cramming events and things in.
Yeah.
So that just results in me getting to do more fun things than he does. And that does feel selfish, and I really want to encourage him to kind of be the selfish one for the next spell.
Yeah.
For however long that is. I'm already thinking about the next thing, so watch me eat my words, but yeah.
Yeah, he needs to go back and get CTR redemption.
I know.
That boy.
I know. He doesn't want to
Matt?
have to sleep during an event, though. You know? It hurts him too much.
Yeah, that's his sweet spot.
Yeah, to go without.
He's fast, and he's like that 300-mile and under distance. He's an animal at that.
Yep.
He's a specialist at that.
I'd like to see how he'd measure up on the AZT 300, because it feels like a CTR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 300's like hard in its own right.
Yeah.
You know, it's a thing, especially if you're trying to go fast.
Yeah, it's not a starter for Ace at all.
No. Yeah. Yeah, that, you know, back to what you're saying about the why do we do this, you know, I get that question from like friends and family all the time and stuff, and some people understand it, but the only people that really get it are like other endurance athletes, you know, because like the why is complex. I mean, it's different for everyone has their own, but there's this thing that you talk to like normie people that like have no idea, even they can't even come close to understanding or fathoming like what a person goes through when they do something like this. And you try to explain it, and it's just not this. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And then they ask you why. You're like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Everything you
horrible.
said just sounds
And
really
you're just
bad.
like, well, it's complicated, right? And it's different for everybody. But like for you, it's you want to set this, you know, be a role model. You want to set this standard. Like this can be done. You can do this. You can have a couple of bad races and be in kind of probably a bad spot, like mentally about it, and then like rise out of this. Like what you did is just like epic. Like you and I said this on the last podcast, you told me that after Pinions and Pines the second year, you were like, I'm correcting this course right away, and I'm going to hire a coach, and I'm going to get this corrected, and I'm going to make this happen. Right now, here you are at the end of Arizona Trail Race. Like, right?
On a single speed.
On a single speed.
Toot toot.
Like something that only a very small group of people finish ever, you know? And female even less, right? Like it's just so incredible. So I don't know, I think we all do it. I guess my original point was like, you know, you have those reasons. My reasons are not the same as that. You know, they're like self accomplishment or adventure or community now. Yeah. You know,
reflect, like that was my answer during the race. Like reflecting on it this past week, it like goes to a place that this is gonna sound weird, but reminds me of like being at war. And I was talking to one of the bike shop guys who doesn't bike pack at all, and I think isn't interested, but like about the why. And it really just like strips you down to like the life and death kind of necessities, like food, water, sleep, shelter, and just like simplifies life and just like the pureness of bike pack racing. It's like a really arbitrary thing and situation that we put ourselves into, like carrying your bike across a Grand Canyon. Like why on earth would you do that? Well, because there's this like silly challenge. But when you're in it and you're with these other wackadoos who have this kind of like very similar adversity, like race the weather and the sun and the resupply closures and each other, and get those like life-giving necessities to keep us going and sustain us, it creates this camaraderie and bond. Even if you're by yourself and not riding with anyone else, it just like feels like so pure and is such a refresh or resetter. It's hard to put into words, but it feels real.
It's so different than daily life. Right.
Yep.
You're being transported into a different dimension.
Indeed.
Right? And you're existing in a different dimension for a period of time.
Your brain goes into like a very different state, for sure.
Were you in active combat?
Technically, like modern war, there's not like a front anymore. It's, like insurgencies, and there's like skirmishes and battles and
Like, did you ever get shot at?
I did never get shot at. Maybe when I was in a helicopter, like going from one place to another. I was in the green zone for the most part, which is a pretty, like, at the time, 20 years ago, safe place. Like the heavily fortified green zone, I think is what the media referred to it as. And I didn't ever feel like my life was in danger. That said, like, I would go to sleep at night to the sounds of explosions and gunfire and helicopters coming and going. A couple weeks after I redeployed, the first nurse to die of combat injuries died on the street in front of my apartment where I'd lived. So, kind
of a reality check there,
Yeah. The one soldier in my unit we lost, it was due to a drug overdose. That said, like, we worked in the ER, so I was part of the team that responded to that situation. I didn't ever feel like my life was in danger in Iraq, in Baghdad, but almost every day, soldiers, enemy combatants, kids were brought in with life-threatening injuries.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't survive.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think you have that, like, it's been said many times on this podcast, like, when you're doing this bikepacking stuff, it, like, strips you down to your core, right? And you build this camaraderie with the other people because you're in this thing together. And that's kind of, like, I think natural for people to do that, right? And you build a stronger bond the more, like, raw you become. But, like, you have a unique perspective in that you were actually in a war zone and in the military, Like, I have no... Because I don't think it's fair to, like, compare that. Because, like, do all that and then put your... Like, you're getting shot at. That's a whole different thing.
It's very different
than, like, voluntarily hiking through the Grand Canyon with your bike on your back.
It's very different, but, like, the end kind of result and feeling, at least to me, is very similar.
Isn't it that like a lot of the vets, they come back after they've deployed and they want to go back to be with the people that they bonded with so extreme?
Yeah.
Because they had, there's something there that just it can't be recreated.
I think it is that, like, that common goal, adversity, life, death, like, strip it down, that kind of, like, pureness that, I mean, we're descended from, right? Like, we didn't always live in these artificially, environmentally controlled situations where, you have AC and heat and all of your comforts. There was a time in the not too distant past where we had to struggle to survive. And I think, like, our brains are made to thrive under those circumstances.
Totally.
Yeah.
And atrophy when we don't have those circumstances.
Parts of them for sure, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and atrophy / get depressed or like schizophrenic, just like things go haywire.
Like, look, when I have a mission, I like whatever it is, to get here to set up this podcast, little things, right? All the way up to big things like complete this course, or whatever, or do this thing.
That's where you thrive.
Yeah. But when I don't have the mission, it's like, I get lethargic and I'm like, I get low energy and like I feel weird where I feel anxiety, but I feel like I don't want to start to do anything.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to overcome the inertia. Yeah.
And so like, and this is like genetic a little bit too. Like my dad's kind of the same way, and I've recognized those patterns in him and talked to him about this. And it's like I can't go on vacation and just like sit. My wife can, so we've had to figure out how to do that together because she's like, I just want to chill, and I'm like, what? Like
how? No.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't want to be like the annoying guy that goes on vacation and just like crams everything in, and it's not a fun vacation, and you're more exhausted when you get back, But yeah, like I strongly believe that we feed off of so Ryan and I were talking about this morning, like this through line of anxiety in these events. Like there's some people who can or are not programmed this way. Maybe Jay Doobie, maybe.
Perhaps.
For example.
Did you listen to the MTV Cast call-ins at all?
No. Oh my God.
I haven't listened to very many of them, but I heard something about him running out of food and water for 18 hours approaching Flagstaff. And he like went to Walnut Canyon National Monument and like asked at the gate, like, hey, can I go and just get some water? And they're like, $25 and you can. And he's like, rides off like angrily, like hasn't had food and water for hours at that point. And
but the $25 is a sticking point.
Yeah, it's just like the principle of like, I don't want to go see your monument, I just need some water, you a-holes.
Oh, that's so funny. That guy's just like a legend to me. I've never met him, but Justin Dubois.
Just barely met him. Yeah. Would like to meet him some more.
Yeah, well he's like a old school, like they call them the acid bikepackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
out there actually like on a psychedelic journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So him and like Ben Hannes, and there's a few like guys that I think those guys can go by the beat of their own drums on these sort of things. But for me and like for Ryan, he was having these like I don't want to speak too much for him, but I've had a lot of sleeping problems after these things. Like I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm confused because there's this like lasting anxiety, like low level vibration of anxiety that happens during these things, right? And so, and this anxiety is like what you were talking about before. Make sure you're getting water, make sure you're getting the right amount of food, make sure your adrenaline's up. You're in a dangerous sort of riding situation. You have to make good calls. You have to be like kind of like at this level of like survival the whole time, right? Of like of being amped up to a certain point, and then you do it, and then you try to cram some weird sleep in there day after day after day after day.
Shiver bivvies.
Yeah, you get your shiver bivvies, and what was the other one? Your rock grabbies, or what did you call it?
Snaggle rock.
Snaggle rocks. Yeah, rock graboids. That's what they called the things in Trimmers. You see the movie Trimmers?
Ooh,
graboids.
Graboids.
Yeah, it does sandworms.
Yeah,
anyway.
Giant dinosaur sandworms.
Yep, graboids. Anyway, and then it just like you in these things, and then it's over, and then but for people like me, can't turn the switch off, and then it's like this like through line of anxiety. But I think that that's normal because like you were saying, historically, hunter-gatherer societies, we're always trying, like, everybody was just trying to not get eaten or get in, like, war from another tribe or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, just survive. And so, like, anxiety is a good thing. Well, maybe not a good thing, but, like, it's a survival instinct.
Yeah.
And now we look at it as kind of like a bad thing.
Right, because there's nothing to survive. Like, we're all totally fine. You just be a bump on the log and...
There's no threats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we and other people do these extreme sort of things that put themselves into these
like
situations.
An outlet for that anxiety. Yep. Yeah.
100%. kind of a weird, like, I kind of came to that realization a couple years ago. Like, this is how I'm like dealing with my own, like, whatever genetic anxiety that's been coming up. So I don't know. Interesting. Do you feel like, so after, do you get that? Do you get like, what are the 3 days? I mean, it's only even 5 days, and you seem like you're in fantastic condition.
I'm doing pretty good. I do not have any sleep issues. I've felt really fatigued. Last night was a huge chunk of sleep, and woke up feeling like rested for the first time. Like, it took a couple days for my appetite to kick in, which is unusual for me. Normally I can, even not around an ultra, I can just eat my way through anything. But I think maybe it was a little bit of mouth sores.
Yeah.
That was keeping my appetite away. Took a couple days, and it's going pretty strong now. I have had like some bouts of depression. And with that, maybe some anxiety, not affecting my sleep. And it usually doesn't hit right away. Like, it takes a little while. A friend of mine who's a behavioral therapist follows somebody on social media, and I started following her as well, and she posted something about how it is entirely normal after a huge endorphin surge, which happens in events like this, everything we're talking about, to be depleted of those happy hormones, and like you've used them up, and to experience some depression afterwards. I'm hoping just like understanding that and anticipating it will be helpful this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like redlining your endorphins.
Basically,
for
yeah.
11 days.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be a biological consequence.
Yeah. Those don't come out of thin air.
No.
Like, they got to get made and run out, just like run out of calories.
And then all the food, too. Like, all the garbage food.
It's probably not the best.
Well, it has a consequence.
Yeah. Been hitting salads hard the last couple days.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so maybe understanding it, but sometimes understanding it doesn't always make you feel better.
No.
You know?
I hope it does, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, writing, journaling works for me for that. This, actually, the podcast, like doing a debrief, works well because it gives me a chance to, like, I know a lot of people do write-ups, you know, on, like, they do, like, big, long Instagram write-ups, or they do, and it kind of, like, gives them, like, a full close, because the process doesn't end when you hit the finish line.
Yeah.
On these things.
Historically, I've blogged, but since baby, like, finding time to sit in front of a screen that doesn't really happen. Also, I'm starting a new job on Monday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What are you doing, if you don't mind?
I took a urgent care nurse practitioner job in Flagstaff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm excited. It's perfect. It's down the street from my house. It's part-time. The requirement is 4 shifts a month. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've missed healthcare. I've missed urgent care.
Yeah.
I haven't missed commuting an hour and a half each way to Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
To do it. Yeah.
I mean, you missed it during COVID, didn't you?
No.
Like I mean, but I mean, like, you didn't have to do it at that point, right? You weren't doing healthcare during COVID.
Oh, I was.
Oh, you were? Okay.
In Spokane, like metropolitan urgent care.
Okay.
It was awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So it'll be a little different now.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I've been away just this past year. Like, basically, my last shift was like a day before Christmas, 2023. So it's been almost a year that I've been away, which is about as long as I feel like I can step away from it and re-enter without having to, like, go to school again to remember how to do it.
Yeah. Is there, like, what do they call them? Like, ongoing trainings, or they call them, like,
continuing medical education.
Yeah, continuing education.
Yeah. And I mean, I listen to medical podcasts and try and stay current, but at a certain point, like, you just got to be doing it to remember how to do it.
Can we have you pull our toenails out?
Talk about that. I mean, yes, I can do it. They'll grow back the way that I do it. Eventually, takes a long time for toenails to grow back.
Yeah. Mine's a little baby right now.
Yeah. Oh, do you have something you need taken off?
No, but I mean,
before your next ultra.
As of recently,
race?
I lost 1 and Jess lost 3 on rim to rim to rim.
Dude,
I'm gonna make a necklace, commemorative necklace with all of our toenails.
You can go to a podiatrist and have them permanently ixnayed. If you, I'm sure you know.
Heard about that?
Yeah.
For Jess mainly because Cocodona, but
yeah.
I mean that's pretty hardcore commitment. Like, like you're like, I'm this hardcore that I have my
surgically alter my body for my hobby. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first one. I mean, like, there's some weird piercer tattoo stuff out there.
Yeah.
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 No.
No. But I mean, like it's just pliers. But he did the needle was pretty intense. They like go right into the side of the bone and the toe
to numb you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the most intense part.
Big toes can be tricky to get fully anesthetized.
Yeah.
But they did a good job. You didn't
on
feel
me,
it?
Yeah.
Okay,
it was
good.
like ready to come off. I waited. I went in and they were like, just take some Bactrim, some antibiotics, and let's give it a week and come back. And I'm like, dude, this toenail's got to go. Like, it's got pockets in the back of pus where it's just like not connected anymore. Like, it's just got to go. Like, get it out of here. And I did what he said. Well, I didn't take the antibiotics.
That's fine.
I was like, you know what? I don't have a fever or whatever. And then I gave it a week, and it was like worse than when it was the week before, because the other toenail had been growing behind it and kind of pushing it up and out. Yeah, and so I went in. I'm like, just take it, dude. And so
there's some providers that love to do it. There's some providers that hate to do it.
Yeah,
I think I'd probably land somewhere in the middle. But it was part of my interview was like, will you take toenails off? It's like a requirement.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like make people squirmy? Like or what's the deal? Why don't people want to take it off?
They're just like afraid to do invasive procedures, I think.
That's what so it was a PA.
Yeah.
And Jess had
and
gone
it's time consuming when you have other patients waiting.
Yeah, I think he was busy too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just give me the pliers. You know what I mean? Like, dude, this is like, this was 2 weeks before rim to rim to rim. So I was like, I got to get this thing off so we can get it at least kind of, back to normal so I can do this thing. Cause I got a life to live here, guy.
I want to see it. Like looking at your foot, like what you got.
I'll show it to you after, okay?
All right.
But yeah. So and then she lost a couple, but she went to the main doctor is like totally. It's like standard proto for him. He's like, oh hey Jess, you back again? How many are we gonna take today?
Frequent flyer.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, totally. Like she's got points with the podiatrist point system. 4 toenails and get the 5th one taken off for free. It's so fucked up. But when she went back, she saw the PA and he was like, I don't want to do something invasive. I don't want to hurt you, which is like commendable, right? You don't want people getting in.
Yeah.
But in this situation, it's like, it's just a toenail. And she didn't get all the way numb on one of them this time around. Yeah, and it was a little like not so easy.
That's the part that I hate is if I can't get like good anesthetic block and I'm like torturing ripping your nails off. Yeah, that's the part that I don't like.
Yeah. But I mean, once it came off and once the numbness went away, it was like night and day because that one was just really needed to come off, But yeah, I don't know. We're gonna make it's Missouri Bill Hill. You know Missouri Bill Hill? You passed it on AZT. It's right before Cedar Ranch.
Okay.
So you're like, let me see how I can describe it. You kind of come past White Horse Hills on the right.
Yep.
And then you kind of get into this like dirt road, rocky, kind of chunky area. And then there's this gnarly gutter descent with a gate. And then it drops you down into Cedar Ranch.
Okay.
You might have done it at nighttime.
No, it was daytime through there for me. I think I just...
It's definitely AZT, but that section, 3 years in a row on Stagecoach 100, it sent me to urgent care. So
is it downhill?
Yeah, 1 year I like crashed and smashed a rib, blew up a tire on a mountain bike, and then the second year there's a section right by Kelly Tank where you're right next to barbed wire. Mm-hmm. And I was running it, and I I've repeated this this is my second time saying this on the podcast, so forgive me, podcast listeners. I kicked a rock, tripped, grabbed the barbed wire fence, opened up my hand. Yeah, like wrapped it up, stuffed some TP in there, made it to boundary and handed off to Jess, and then went to urgent care and got it stitched up the next day. And then this year, kicked a rock.
Dang it. Going down Snowball.
Yeah. And then Death Mud in Missouri Bill Hill. But I believe it's the spirit of Missouri Bill.
Yeah.
So I need to make a token, what do they call it? A necklace, like a religious necklace.
Burn some sage. Yeah.
To, give an offering of toenails to Missouri Bill.
There's something that Bill wants that you're not providing him with.
Yeah, definitely not. 3 years in a row. Like, I've done so much stuff.
Any way you can.
But for some reason, that one. Okay, last couple questions and then we'll get you out of here. So, like, is there one really favorite part or most memorable part on the entire trail?
There's many. Ryan asked me as we were hiking up North Kaibab, like, what was your favorite? And I think I joked to him, like, this. It was so brutal.
Yeah.
In retrospect, like, that was like the hardest thing. And having done it, yeah, maybe that was one of the highlights.
Yeah.
Because I actually, like, did it, even though it hurt so bad and was so hard and so awful. And I don't think I ever want to do it again. But
so a little birdie told me that you thought that the Supai Tunnel was the end.
Oh, gosh.
It's probably pretty easy to figure out who said that.
For a second, yeah. Like, I got up there. He was stopped. It was flat. There was a sign. Like, the tunnel was the end of the down.
Yeah.
And, like, makes sense. Like,
seems like all
Is this it?
Yeah.
He was probably like, you fool.
Oh. All the clues made it seem like it was.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Then Coconino Overlook after that.
Yeah, and then you keep going after that. Yeah. No, but like just the thing I'd most like to go back and ride in the daytime was the descent into Summerhaven on top of Mount Lemmon. You top out on Mount Bigelow, and then you get onto this trail called Sunset, which starts out as like a flow trail with a bunch of drops.
Yeah.
And then a couple skunks tried to spray me.
Yeah.
Like, got up on their front paws, tails straight up in the air. I could see their blowhole pointed at me. I was like, no, friend. I didn't mean you no harm. Please do not. Anyways, they managed to let me pass. And then you get into this, like, rock slab zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know the
like,
one you're talking
cliffs.
about.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm on this, like, fully loaded single speed in the cold, dark night. Not able to shred it quite the way that I would have liked to.
Okay, you did it at night.
I want to go back and ride that. Did you ride that in the daytime?
I've done both.
Yeah?
So in 2020, I did it at night in the spring. And there was like a waterfall on the left side.
Oh, cool.
Like that whole canyon.
I can see it, yeah.
Was fully flows in the springtime.
Dude.
And it was night, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I was having a what am I doing with my life moment.
Yeah. Why am I here?
I felt very vulnerable at that point, like black bears and mountain lions, and then I come around to those rock slabs, and it was just like you could hear the water just like into the dark off to the left, and I was like, this is epic.
Like Last of the Mohican shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then last year I did it in the daytime, in the fall, and it's not flowing. But then you like come out from that, and you're like on a road with all these tourists. All these like normal people, like
all of a sudden you're in
tripping.
like a weird ass ski town in southern Arizona.
Yeah, right. With like weekend warrior type people coming out for their 1 mile hike.
Yeah.
And you're like emerging out. That's the best.
That's what it's all about.
So what was your least favorite part?
Oh. I mean, day one, like the Canelos, like just how loose and unrideable, and then like getting a migraine and getting nauseous and like getting so far behind everyone. Day one was hard. Yeah, it wasn't in my groove. Slow. I was like not comfortable with my choices of riding a single speed and like being totally overloaded, and yeah.
Yeah.
overburdened with too much water and food from the start.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably a low point for me. I'm trying to think. I have this like protective brain defect where I tend to forget pretty quickly painful, uncomfortable, not fun things, and just like glorify stuff. I guess. How else do you do these bikepacking races other than like block out the negatives and just remember the positives?
I mean, I think we all kind of have a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of human nature a little bit, right? That's what, because then we go back and do it again.
Yeah.
After it's the complete sufferfest or whatever.
Riding with Brad, I think I outed myself as like a overly optimistic, like to the point of being dangerous, because we were going up the Lemon Push kind of at the same time, and I'm like, I think you'll make the Summer Haven resupply. No problem if you push it. And he actually did.
Yeah.
I did not, but I think his response was like, I think you got to be overly optimistic if you're doing this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's no other way.
Like annoyingly overly optimistic. Because then it like just brings you back down to normal level, right?
Yeah. Yep.
After you get like through the meat grinder a little bit. So what's harder, Arizona Trail 800 or giving birth?
Oh, I actually thought about this.
Yes.
AZT 800.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Put that in
definitely. It's like longer, more painful. Yeah, and you don't get a baby at the end.
Right. If that's your goals.
Right, for better or worse.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've now solidified that in history.
Yeah. I don't know. Have any other moms done the AZT 800?
I mean, I'm sure off the top of my...
Definitely lots of dads.
Yeah, but yeah.
Ah.
I mean, it's definitely a small group for sure. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, it might be an N of very, very few respondents there, but yeah.
That makes it even more epic.
Yeah, labor's certainly faster.
Yeah. It might be more compressed, the pain.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's wrap this up. Let's do some like shout outs. Any shout outs you want to give? Bike shop?
Oh yeah, Bike Rev. Shout out. Liza Sampi coaching.
Yep.
I definitely used some squirrels out there, and I actually picked up some Catula gators.
Oh yeah.
Last minute.
Nice.
So glad I did that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
They're pretty key.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep the shit out of my feet.
Yeah. What I like about those too, those particular gators is they unzip on the side, so you can just kind of like half unzip them and take your shoe off without having to take the whole gator off.
Yep.
Which a lot of people do like the pullover gators, and then you got to like deal with pulling all that, So for these like multi-day things where you're constantly taking your shoe on and off, the side zip is like clutch.
These held up surprisingly well. I was like nervous that the stirrup was just gonna disappear.
Oh, at the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh, that thing is like
Bomb-proof.
They've rated it like they test that stuff so extensively. It's unbelievable.
Shout out Maverick.
Shout out Maverick. Forever.
Best gas station ever. It's like made for bikepackers.
Yes. And your Instagram, Elbow Rides?
Yep.
What is the deal with that?
Leigh Bowe, elbow.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
So
Not
tricky.
Mustache rides, it's elbow rides.
And Strava? Do you want me to shout out your Strava? No. Don't look her up on Strava.
It makes my AZT ride look like child's play.
All right. It's just you have a funny name on Strava.
What is it again?
Shut Up Lungs.
Oh yeah.
You were like a mystery person to me. I would see Shut Up Lungs every once in a while on Strava rides.
Picture of a grumpy dog.
Yeah, and I'm like, who is this person? Like you and Shreddy Krueger. Like who are these people? Right?
Have you found Matt's Strava at all?
Matt Bowe?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, he's very few know who he is on there.
Oh, he's a mystery man.
Yeah, I don't know if I should out him on the podcast.
No, don't. Definitely not.
Yeah.
No, we'll
when
let
you
the
show
fans
me your
do that.
toenail, yeah. Maybe I'll tell you.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Leigh.
Thanks, Dylan.
Incredible journey. Take it easy.
It was a journey.
Enjoy your salad.
Oh, yeah.
You got some catching up to do?
Yeah.
on calories.
Yes. I'm probably still in the hole a little bit, but I'm digging out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and take it easy the next few days.
Will do. You too.
So.
What day do you start?
Thursday.
Escape from LA Thursday morning at 6.
Yeah. Cool. I'm the Surgeon General. It's a character from Escape LA. It's like this guy with like a mangled Beverly Hills fancy fit, like a filler monster kind of.
Awesome.
Like an early version of a filler monster. Now they're like real, you know?
Yeah.
But this was like a John Carpenter horror take on like a Beverly Hills doctor called the Surgeon General.
I have to watch the movie, and I'll be watching your dot.
Okay.
Surgeon General.
Cool. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Leigh.
I wanted to let you know a few different ways that you can support this podcast. Of course, you can like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Tell other people about it. Tell your friends and family. If you think these conversations I'm having are valuable as I think they are, share it. Send it out. Ask them to subscribe. That would be amazing. That's a free way that you can support. Another way you can support is by financially support is by becoming a member on either YouTube or Spotify. Those links are always in the description of all the videos. And YouTube members do get some extra perks like member shout-outs during the podcast, priority reply to comments, and best of all, you get early access to new videos that I'm releasing. You can also, if you don't want to sign up for a recurring membership, you can also show me your support by sending a one-time gift using what YouTube calls the Super Thanks feature. So when you're watching a video, down at the bottom, there's the little buttons, the thumbs up, thumbs down button. And right next to that, there is a heart with a little dollar sign in the middle, and it says thanks next to it. That is the Super Thanks button. So if you click that, it'll allow you to give a one-time gift, financial gift of your choice. And it's just incredible. Like seeing the support that I've gotten so far from both members and from Super Thanks is just amazing, and it is definitely allowing me to keep this thing rolling down the tracks.